Hello and welcome to Monin Park. We're sorry we're a little bit behind schedule, but we're happy to have you along for the ride. It's the 2018 UMass Boston and Lasell College season opener. Should be a good one. My name is Seth Dorensky, soon to be joined by my color commentator David Wahlberg. And when we talk about season openers, we've seen these two teams 2 years in a row now. Taking a look at that all-time series, UMass Boston a season ago, an 11-6 win. Lasell, though, earned a win 2 years ago in the second game of the season here in second ever game at Monin Park, defeating UMass Boston by a 4-1 score. Taking a look at our four things to know. Well, you see a UMass Boston team that is just having a tremendous pair of seasons. Once Monin Park opened the first ever on-campus field here for the UMass Boston baseball team. They're 31-9 the past two seasons at home. Ranked fifth in the two preseason polls, actually moved up to third yesterday in the D3Baseball.com poll, earning one first place vote. On the other side, this Lasell team, 16-16 a year ago, finished fourth in the GNAC, ended up finishing third in the GNAC tournament. Lost four of their top five pitchers. The one guy who's back, that's Dan Petter. The junior will get the start on the mound for the Lasers as Lasell College looks to earn a big upset win to start the 2018 season. Taking a look at our player to watch, it's Dave Murphy, all-region shortstop 2 years ago, back after missing all but 11 games, limited to 14 at-bats as a first-year senior. The red shirt senior getting a fifth season and third season with the Beacons. Last season finished 7-14 with 6 RBI in limited appearances, back from an injury. He'll be at second base today as Charlie Huegi took over the position and played extremely well in his first full-time season as a starting shortstop. Started as a freshman at first base. Taking a look right now at our starting pitcher for UMass Boston, it's going to be Joey Rogers. We saw him a season ago. He was the starting right fielder. Today he gets the start on the mound as the Beacons graduated just 4 players, but their top 2 pitchers from a year ago, Dan Mantoni and Matt Tully. We'll take a break for the national anthem and be back with the rest of our pregame show right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. UMass Boston will go with the man that calls himself Sensei Joe, Joey Rogers, the sophomore out of Dayton, Massachusetts. Rogers, a season ago, 8 starts. He started game 1 of the New England Regionals and the Little East Conference Tournament. So a guy the Beacons had a ton of confidence in, and he is a guy who, he's not going to overpower you, but very good control, 27 strikeouts, 16 walks, and he's a guy who's not going to just make an impact on the mound this year. Beacons anticipate that he's going to DH quite a lot at the top of their lineup. In fact, they thought about DHing him today. Instead, he ends up as just a pitcher, with Anthony Cesare making his first appearance since his freshman season. Taking a look right now at the Lasell College lineup. A couple of big names to replace for the Lasers. They lost 3 all-conference players who were in the lineup a season ago. Brandon Valentin, Hector Cochione, and Skylar Beckerman. So this is the lineup for Lasell College. David Marcel, 387, tops on the team a year ago. Zach Herring, the junior college transfer out of California, will hit second. Andre Marchessault, all-conference honoree at third base as a sophomore. He's hitting third. Don Mescal, the other big bopper in the middle lineup, another all-conference honoree. Robert Catone and Jesse Tejero, pair of returners. Brett Sharon, Sean Doris, true freshman in the lineup, hitting eighth and playing right field. And Evan Mahalik will hit ninth for the Lasers, facing off against Joey Rogers, the Beacons lefty. While we've got a moment, let's take a look at the Beacons defensive lineup. This is a Beacons team that returned all but 5 guys who made big impacts from a season ago. Couple big changes, though, as UMass Boston did have to replace their starting left fielder, their starting second baseman, as we'll actually bring that to you in a second. Having a little bit of technical difficulties with our graphics. You see the first guy stepping into the plate for Lasell College, and that's David Marcel. Marcel, a guy who had a very strong season a year ago for the Lasers, as we try to get the graphics back up top. First pitch of 2018, a little bit too far inside for ball one. We get first pitch of 2018, and that comes at 3:02 here on the East Coast. Rogers has a hard chopper over to the third baseman Boudris, picks it up on one hop, throws it across, and just like that, 2 pitches and the first out of the 2018 season. So a good start for the Beacons lefty, who pitched and hit over the summer with the Cortland Crush up in the New York Collegiate Baseball League, a favorite for Brennan Eichbrod in this Beacons team. Zach Herring will step in, the left fielder. One of a pair of juniors who are on the team after not being on the team a season ago. He's a junior college transfer out of California. Had a pretty successful career out there. Attended Clovis North High School as the first pitch is chopped over, foul on the third base side. Rogers looks at the sign from Ryan McCormick, another newcomer, as Beacon's longtime starting catcher Anthony Searles is up in the booth today after exhausting all of his eligibility. Breaking ball a little high on the outside corner, 1-1. We'll bring you the Beacons lineup defensive lineup once we get the graphics back in, as that pitch is a fastball just off the outside corner, 2-1. 2-1 to Herring. As Rogers looks in for the sign, and he paints the inside corner with the fastball, 2-2. Joey Rogers, a guy who didn't see his first start of the season until about 2/3 of the way into the Florida trip. Saw more and more action as there's a swing and a miss. First strikeout of the 2018 season. And Zach Herring goes down swinging. Rogers has needed just 7 pitches to get the first 2 outs of today's contest. And now he'll face the first of 2 all-conference honorees returning for the Lasell College Lasers. Lasell plays in the Great Northeast Athletic Conference, same conference as Suffolk, a team the Beacons beat in the New England Regional. And St. Joseph's College in Maine, a perennial power here in New England. Marchessault had a great season a year ago, .345 with 23 runs scored and 24 RBI, slugged .445. He's ahead in the count, 1-0, as he swings and misses at another inside fastball. Rogers has been trying to pound these right-handers inside, and thus far has been very successful. Marchessault, a junior out of Cheshire, Connecticut, stands 5'11", 184 out of Xavier High School. 1-1 offering is fouled back to the stop, and Rogers is potentially 1 pitch away from getting out of a 1-2-3 inning here in the top of the first. Bring you the Beacons defensive lineup after this pitch, if it does extend the inning. 1-2, 2 down, top of the first, still scoreless. 1-2 offering, breaking balls a little high, and we'll bring you that defensive lineup right now. It's UMass Boston, a lot of returning starters. There are a couple new faces for the Beacons. Out in right field, Wanderson Pinales, the junior college transfer out of Southwestern Oklahoma College. Sal Frashino in center has been a mainstay in the Beacons lineup. Nick Herzog moves to left to open the 2018 season. Along the infield, it's Kyle Boudris, Charlie Huegi. Dave Murphy moves from short to second, and Chris Fowler, the preseason All-American. It's Ryan McCormick behind the dish, and that one's just high. Rogers loses him after being ahead in the count, and that's the first base runner for either side as big Dom Mascalo steps up to the dish.
The first baseman, number 33, Dom Mascalo.
Mascalo, very talented first baseman, all-conference honoree. Senior out of Waterbury, Connecticut, 6'5", 250, a guy you want to be careful with, especially considering it's a little bit warm for late February, 58 degrees, and the wind is blowing straight out. So Mascalo's the guy the Beacons are going to try to make sure everything stays down, and there's a breaking ball that drops into the zone on the inside corner, 0-1. This Lasell team graduated 7 seniors from a year ago, including 3 all-conference hitters and 4 of their top 5 pitchers. So they're really going to have to rely on this lineup. They brought in a ton of freshman pitchers. A lot of freshmen and sophomores who didn't see a ton of time last year are going to have to sort of pick up their play, or at least be relied on more this year by Lasell College coach Greg Harjula. 0-1 here to Mascalo. Another breaking ball, this one on the outside corner. Wasn't happy with it, and it's 0-2. Today's two-man crew, Edward McAvin behind the plate, and Michael Connors is out there behind Rogers just to his right. Runner on first is Marchessault. 0-2 to Mascalo. Too far inside with the fastball, 1-2. Beautiful day in Boston for this 2018 opener. Originally scheduled for Friday at 3, but Friday we're supposed to see 50-mile-per-hour winds. Fortunately, the two schools were able to move this game up, and everyone is happy about it. So there's a swing and a miss. Gets jammed on the inside corner. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Rogers. Works around a 2-out walk. We head to the bottom of the first. UMass Boston gets their first crack at Daniel Petter.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris. The subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
And welcome back to beautiful Monin Park, 3rd year in its existence, the shared home of both UMass Boston Baseball and Boston College High School here in Dorchester, Mass. Let's take a look right now for the first time at the Beacons lineup here in 2018. This lineup has absolutely crushed the ball through a couple of preseason scrimmages against Nichols, Curry, and Tufts University. From what the coaches have told me, the Beacons have absolutely been raking at this point, as we're not getting the graphics. Sorry about that. Right now we'll take a look at it just without the graphics. Sal Frashino, the Beacons senior center fielder, leads off. Kyle Boudris, over 120 hits in 2 seasons, had 69 a year ago, will hit second. Dave Murphy, all-region shortstop, who was limited a season ago, he's back in the lineup, hit 8 home runs and a team-high 20 extra base hits in his first year with UMass Boston. Chris Fowler, the cleanup hitter and first baseman, will hit 4th. He slugged .600 a season ago. Nick Herzog's out there in right fielder, a clutch hitter who had the walk-off hit against Penn State Berks in the NCAA Regional first round. Ryan McCormick, great pinch hitter a year ago, will get the start at catcher. Wanderson Pinales, a very talented base runner, pretty good hitter in his own right. Junior college transfer, hits 7th and will play right. Anthony Cesare did not have an at-bat last year with a messed up shoulder. He's in there hitting 8th and DHing, and Charlie Huegi, the Brock Holt of the Beacons, will hit 9th and play shortstop, a guy who can literally play anywhere on the infield. As you see Sal Frashino step up. Sal, a guy who put down 9 sacrifice hits a year ago, so he's very good with the bat. Also has a little bit of pop as he fouls one back to the stop. It's quickly 0-2, working against the righty Daniel Petter. And 2 to Frashino, who's wearing this new Beacons uniform. The Beacons got 3 sets of new uniforms, a blue, a white, and a gray here for the 2018 season. Defending Little East Conference tournament champs and New England regional champs. Made it all the way to the College World Series where the Beacons went 1-2. Their first ever win at the College World Series as Frashino swings and misses. And a good start for Daniel Petter, the lone returning starter for a Lasell team. Mentioned in the pregame, did not have the greatest of seasons in terms of a pitching staff, 7.30 ERA, towards the bottom of the country. But Petter is the one guy that you really have to worry about in terms of returners. He had a very nice performance a season ago against UMass Boston. Came in relief of the starter Casey Johnson and went 3+ innings, allowed 2 runs, 0 earned to hold down the Beacons bats in what ended up being an 11-6 win. 1-0 to Kyle Boudris, the junior third baseman out of Medford, Mass. Local kid who's a 2-time all-conference honoree, chops one foul. Boudris has gap power, or at least that's what he's shown the first 2 seasons. Apparently hit a 400-foot home run last week in a win over Curry, an exhibition game in which it was even nicer out, about 70 degrees. Very unusual weather as that breaking ball is outside, 2-1. Petter appeared in 9 games this season ago. One of the team's top 2 conference starters. It's a 2-1 pitch, ripped out to right. The only question is it fair? And it is. A foot inside the right field line. Boudris is thinking 2. He's not really the fastest of guys, and he'll hold up at second base. Kyle Boudris starts off right where he ended the 2018 season, an extra base hitting machine. Had 14 doubles a year ago, and he's the first Beacons base runner of the 2018 season. A 1-out double puts the Beacons in really good scoring opportunity here with the heart of their order coming up. Dave Murphy and Chris Fowler, a couple guys who absolutely love playing here at Monin Park. 2 guys who can easily crush one over the monster. Murphy, just 14 at-bats a season ago, suffered from a sports hernia that kept him out as he fouls off the first pitch over the bleachers on the right side. 0-1. Boudris, as I mentioned, not the fastest guy. He's likely staying put unless there's a ball put in play. Oh, 0-1. Petter, a long look back at Boudris, and he bounces one up there. Nice job by the catcher. We'll see if we can get you the defensive lineup for Lasell after this batter. That's Robert Catoni behind the plate. One of a number of returners from a season ago for this team. They did lose 3 defensive starters. Catoni's one of the guys back as Murphy hits a high fly ball out to left center. Going back on that is Mahalik, just short of the monster, and it bounces off the top of the green. He can't find it. Boudris is going to score. Murphy's thinking 3. Mahalik picks it up. Murphy's being sent around. A play at the plate upcoming. The throw is late. And the question is it a triple or an inside the park home run? Either way, the Beacons lead 2-0. And a long look amongst the operators here. And they're going to say it's an inside the park home run. We saw it a year ago for Lasell College. on the first batter of the game. This time it's Dave Murphy. What a way to come back. Was limited to 11 games this season to go. Mahalik completely lost the ball that bounced off the top of the green padding that's out there for the fielders. Now you can see right now there's no green screens on what would be the green monster at Fenway Park. It's our mini monster here at Monin Park. He lost the ball, and then the shortstop couldn't quite make the catch. That's Tejero. Would have been a close play, but either way, Murphy rounds the bases, and the Beacons lead 2-0 on the one-out homer from their fifth-year senior. Pitch is just off the corner, 2-0 to Chris Fowler. Fowler's a guy who struggled his first year as a Beacon, his sophomore season after starting his career at Wheaton College, and then just turned it around in a huge way a season ago, as that one's inside. Fowler was competing for the starting first baseman job with Luke Nagel heading into the year. Actually, was also competing with Charlie Huegi, as Huegi ended up moving over to shortstop. But Fowler earned a spot and never relented. Had a 37-game hit streak throughout late March, early April into the month of May, and was a huge part of the Beacon's successful postseason run. Heading the count 3-1, and he will chop it over on the right side, and it gets underneath Marcel on the second bounce. The Beacons with 3 consecutive hits, a double, a homer, and a single through the right side. And they have a one-out base runner for Nick Herzog. Junior captain out of Riverhead, New York, looking to keep up the hit parade. Beacon's team has been scoring close to 20 runs in each of their exhibition games. We were wondering how it would translate against such a strong pitcher in Petter. Herzog, the New England Regional Tournament MVP last season, as he takes a breaking ball, bounces up there in the left-hander's batting box. Herzog, during that tournament, 538, 5 runs, and 5 RBI. Had the game-winning hit against Penn State Berks in an extra inning win in game number 1. Beacon's closest game of their 4-0 sweep. Herzog swings and misses. Can't quite catch up to the fastball. 1-1. Looking at the defensive lineup for Lasell, it's Herring, the junior college transfer, in left. Mahalik, who couldn't quite find that ball that bounced over his head off the fencing, in center. Doris is out there in right field. He's a true freshman. Marchessault at third. Tejero at short. Marcel at second. Muscalo over at first base. Robert Cotoni behind the plate. And Daniel Petter is on the mound. 1-1 pitch. It's up high. And it's 2-1. Fowler, again, not one of the fastest Beacons, but he did pick up some smart steals last year. When guys weren't really focused on him, Fowler did, well, I say that, actually went 0 for 4 last year, had a couple of steals the season before, but it's a guy who can take some extra bases as Herzog fouls it off the end of the bat, and the count moves to 2-2. Beacons lead 2-0 on a one-out inside the park home run from Dave Murphy, a ball that just kept pushing out to center field. It looked like originally it might be playable, but remember, the wind is blowing out and impacted that play as the 2-2 is a little bit up inside with the fastball, and the count runs full. Fowler should be off with the pitch. Full count with 1 down. The Beacons already with 3 hits and just the 1 out in the inning. They look to get to Lasell's de facto ace, Daniel Petter. 3-2 pitch, fouled off over towards the new parking garage on the right side and into the new parking garage, I believe, as the parking garage will end up opening, I believe, later this semester, potentially over the summer, but should provide a lot of new parking for UMass Boston students, faculty, and fans. 3-2 pitch, 1 down. Fowler not taking off. It's hit right back to Petter. Should be a double play, and it's dropped by the shortstop, Tejero. That's going to be an error on Tejero, and the Beacons still with just 1 out now, 2 runners on. After Tejero was on the bag, it was a little bit over towards the third base side, but certainly should have been caught. And the Beacons now have 2 on with one out for Ryan McCormick. McCormick's a guy who bounced around a year ago. Catcher by trade, actually started a handful of games in left field when UMass Boston was still trying to figure out a long-term solution. Ended up being Luke Nagel, one of their seniors who graduated. But what McCormick did a phenomenal job of was his pinch hitting. 7 of 13 as a pinch hitter, 9 of 12 with runners in scoring position, and 8 of 20 with 2 outs. So right now he's got a runner in scoring position in Chris Fowler. Nick Herzog, a big lead at first base. 1-0 coming to the Cumberland, Rhode Island native, and he chops it fouled on the first base side. McCormick ended up with just 16 hits and limited at-bats last year. 302 average, 365 on base, 396 slugging. 5 of his 16 hits were for extra bases. And he's a guy who likes to go the opposite way. Hit a couple of doubles down to that short corner in left, just 310. Identical to Fenway Park, just a couple miles away from UMass Boston's campus. Hit towards the right side, past the glove of Marcel, and that's going to be an RBI single. Herzog's going to go from first to third, and the Beacons extend their lead to 3-0 on the RBI single from Ryan McCormick. Second time today, the Beacons have just gotten one just past the glove of David Marcel, the second baseman, on that particular play. Really nice job by Nick Herzog to evade the baseball. Had to take an awkward route to second base, but still able to move all the way over to third. It's interesting. No conversation right now with Daniel Petter, who's given up 5 consecutive base runners. 2 singles, a double, a homer, and an error on what should have been an inning play. So that run that just scored is unearned, but Herzog over at third base would be an earned run. 3-0 the Beacons lead, and it's Wanderson Pinellas. First time we get to see the junior college transfer who's out there in right field. Pinellas, the guy the Beacons were really high on when he committed to come to UMass Boston. Transfer out of Western Oklahoma State College, a really strong team, an NAIA powerhouse. Made it to a couple of College World Series back in the early 2000s. Look up the numbers on Wanderson from a year ago. There's the throw over to first. Beacons paying a lot of attention to McCormick, who, not a guy who stole a ton. Pinellas is a guy who's used to Boston. He went to high school in Jamaica Plain at English High School, the oldest high school in the United States. Pinellas, a big swing there, and it gets through the glove of Catoni, and McCormick advances on the pass ball. Catoni's claiming that was tipped. He's asking the home plate umpire to check with his base umpire, nothing doing. And the Beacons now have 2 runners in scoring position with 1 down for Pinellas. Already 3-0. Petter could have been out of this inning if not for the error on his shortstop, Tejero. Pinellas stays alive, fouls one back off the top of the screen. Anthony Cesare, the redshirt sophomore, awaits on deck, looking for his first at-bat since the 2016 season. Pinellas as a junior at Western Oklahoma State as he takes a pitch low and inside. Breaking ball catches the inside corner, a backdoor cutter. And that's the second strikeout of the inning. This one a little bit more vital for Petter as he struck out the first batter and then allowed the next 5 guys to reach. So 2 strikeouts in the inning, just like Joey Rogers. The only problem is what's been in between, including a inside the park homer from David Murphy. Anthony Cesare lines one up the middle. That's going to score 1 and make it 2. McCormick racing home the throws up the line. And now the Beacons are going to see Cesare advance on the bobble from Catoni. The throw is not in time. And the Beacons extend their lead to 5-0. A first pitch fastball, and Cesare laced it up the middle. Guy who had just 2 hits as a freshman has already got 1 here in the first inning of 2018. That means that just the first 2 runs of this inning were earned on Petter because of the error. And now UMass Boston leads 5-0. Charlie Huegi, junior shortstop out of Sandy Hook, Connecticut, a guy who throughout his career has started at first base, catcher, and shortstop, and in a pinch could fill in at second or third. So he looks to get the Beacons back to the top of the order with 2 down and a runner on second in the form of Cesare. Huegi hits it over the shortstop. Chance to get out of the inning. Tejero throws it across, and the Beacons are retired in the bottom of the first, but not before. UMass Boston scores 5 runs on 5 hits and 2 errors. The Beacons will send Joey Rogers out to the mound with a big lead here in the second inning. Top of the second inning, Joey Rogers has a big lead, and he allows a long fly ball out into the triangle. That one's going to land, and it's going to be extra bases. A huge fly ball out to right center, and it's going to be a leadoff triple from Robert Catoni, who had a pass ball and an error in that first inning, trying to get a little bit of retribution and help for his pitcher as Catoni, a long run around the bases and a stand-up triple, although he appears to be in a little bit of pain over there at third base, talking to the third base coach. Remember, wind blowing out, the flags have been whipping out there in right center field, and you're going to see some balls that maybe would hang up typically, especially with these speedy Beacons outfielders, end up over the heads of an outfielder. We already saw that in the top of the first when Dave Murphy had an inside-the-park home run on a ball that looked like it might be caught initially. This brings up Jesse Tejero, another guy who struggled in that first inning. Was unable to make a catch on what should have been a double play ball back to the pitcher. Would have kept the game at 2-0. The 0-1 breaking ball, nice curveball that drops into the zone, and it's 0-2 now to Tejero. Rogers looking to keep that ERA sparkling, at least through another couple of pitches. Obviously, with the 5-0 lead, not as worried as much about the lead as that one's chopped down the third baseline, foul. And we'll do it again, 0-2. Tejero to be followed by Brett Sharon, the DH, and if it gets to it, Sean Doris, the freshman right fielder. After this half inning, we'll take a couple looks at the highlights from the Beacons' bottom of the first, as UMass Boston scored 5 runs, 3 earned on 5 hits, 2 errors and a pass ball. 0-2 pitch, just off the corner. Fastball with some nice late motion, but just ends up in the left-hander's batter's box. Tejero, a guy who Played all over the field a year ago for this Lasell team. As Lasell, a little bit of chirps from their bench after that last pitch thrown by Rogers. Staying high despite the early deficit. 2-2. Coming to Jesse Tejero, and he just gets a piece of it. Throws the bat head out in front of the ball, and it's fouled back to the stop. Decent crowd that keeps seeing more and more people filter in on this gorgeous February afternoon. High of 58 degrees here in Boston on the last day in February. Easily the earliest start in UMass Boston program history. Gets by McCormick. Runner takes off. There's going to be a play. The tag in time. It'll end up as a strikeout and a 2-1 put out at home. And the Beacons catch Lasell maybe trying to be a little overly aggressive. No outs in the inning. They get a runner thrown out at first base, and the Beacons will take that trade-off as Rogers now has 3 strikeouts in his first 4 outs, with Catoni erased on the 2-1 put out at home plate.
Designated hitter number 35, Brett Sharon.
That'll bring up Brett Sharon, the designated hitter. First pitch to Sharon right down Broad Street for strike 1. So Tejero reaches on the strikeout, fielder's choice. Rogers looks in, his 0-1 offering bounces up there. Joey Rogers is one of the few baseball players out there who's probably happy that it's not in the 70s, maybe even 80s. A guy who pitched his best baseball in April. Once it came to May, struggled a little bit. A guy who doesn't love the sun. It's the 1-1 offering from Joey. Great breaking ball on the outside corner, 1-2. So Rogers has really settled in after giving up that leadoff triple. We'll show you that replay after this batter, as it was an interesting decision to send the runner, Catoni, a catcher who looked a little winded after running all the way to third base. Might have had a little bit of a foot issue, and the catcher was out by about foot and a half, with Rogers making a nice play to get to the mound. Remember, he's a guy who last year was playing some right field, some center field, along with pitching, and the Beacons anticipate he'll play a little bit of a damn man Tony role, not quite as much pop, but he should see a lot of time as the designated hitter when he's not on the mound, and even potentially when he is. UMass Boston tinkering around with some possible lineups here before the season. 1-2, 1 out in the top of the second. Laced, and it's caught by Fowler. An unassisted double play for Chris Fowler going up the ladder. We've got a couple of web gems to show you for UMass Boston, as we will head to a commercial, then we'll show you some offensive plays, some defensive plays. The Beacons are putting up highlight after highlight here in the opening inning and a half. It's 5-0 UMass Boston through 1.5 innings.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university.
We'll take a look at those last 2 defensive highlights. We'll bring you some offensive highlights. But first, here's the play where they elect to send Catoni home. It takes a high bounce. McCormick doesn't find it originally. But then look at Rogers. He's at the plate well before Catoni's even in your picture. A good throw right into the chest, and the tag applied from Rogers in plenty of time. And now we'll take a look at that last unassisted double play from Fowler. Fowler doesn't even have to move, folks. He goes up the ladder, makes the jump. He's already on first base, and it's a nice double play from UMass Boston's senior first baseman out of Barnstable, who is due up fourth this inning. And you see Sal Frashino getting ready. Frashino struck out to lead off the first. The Beacons had all 9 batters step up. And now to start the bottom of the second, I'm joined by UMass Boston Sports Information Director Dave Wahlberg. Taking care of a lot of things, but seems like things may have settled down here on opening day.
Yeah, opening day, you expect the unexpected, definitely with the opening day. Coming down to the wire with the audio cable because, you need the extra 4 feet that you don't calculate for, and running under the bleachers, setting up camera work, and, but the students here are the best in the business at what they do, so they handled it, and we're moving on.
We apologize for the lack of the scoreboard. Still trying to get that to work perfectly, so we'll keep you updated. It's 1-1 here. Bottom of the second, Beacons lead 5-0. Leadoff hitter Sal Frashino steps to the plate. Frashino, a guy who's been a spark plug for UMass Boston, both at the top and the bottom of the lineup, wherever head coach Brendan Eigerbrod asks. He's ahead in the count 2-1 with Boudris and Murphy due up next. And Dave, we've been hearing a lot from some of the Beacon student athletes about how well they're hitting. Certainly an impressive display in the first inning, backing up some of that talk.
Yeah, it's amazing what Dave Murphy does. First game back after having the sports hernia, and how immediately the bats are just red hot. And all you heard during the preseason was, we're attacking 20 runs, 30 hits. It's just the guys are hitting the ball the way they should be hitting at a field that likes to carry the ball with the wind coming off the ocean and the turf. So it's nice to see the guys are just carrying that momentum from last year into the season.
3-2 count as that pitch catches the inside corner. Certainly a help when you lose your top 2 starters. The Beacons also a bit banged up in the pitching staff. A couple guys right now a little bit slow in getting ready for the season as that one's popped up. Should end up in the bleachers, maybe just over the bleachers behind us. But when you lose a guy like Matt Tully and Dan Mantoni, a couple of other guys banged up, certainly takes some pressure off the pitching staff to be able to put up 7, 8, even double-digit runs in some of these early season games.
Yeah, especially because it's going to be so cold. And I mean, we say it's warm today and it's high of 60, and then this weekend it could be low of 40, high of 38. So, I mean, the pitching appreciates it because it gets so cold so quick, and when you have those long innings, the arms can tighten up real quick. So to have a nice lead on the scoreboard helps them out big time, where there's not that much pressure riding on them that they need to be shutting people down to the 7th, 8th inning.
Yeah, a lot of the Beacons players right now in short sleeves with no undershirts, as Frashino will foul that one back. Nice little battle going as we'll see the 7th pitch of the at-bat. UMass Boston, of course, was supposed to play Friday against Lasell. That game got moved up 2 days, much nicer weather today. Beacons are scheduled to play Stevens Institute of Technology on Saturday at noon. Stevens out of New Jersey, coming up for a 2-game trip. They'll play Endicott on Sunday. It's the 3-2 pitch, and that's going to be another strikeout. Frashino goes around. He's 0 for 2, and Petter, despite his early woes, does have 3 strikeouts, a guy who's really had to fight against the Beacons lineup that doesn't have any holes.
Yeah, he caught Sal just kind of mid-swing. Sal, for his speed and his awareness, and as a senior, sometimes he gets kind of stuck right in the middle on a swing like that, but he's somebody that could easily come back and tack on 3 hits without even missing a beat, and before you know it, he's somebody who can turn a single into a triple in a blink of an eye. So, and then Boudris comes up and picks up the team right from there.
Boudris right up the middle. He's 2 for 2, a single and a double. Not necessarily a candidate for the cycle, just because the triple might be difficult, even the home run. I give Kyle a little bit of a hard time, but realistically, Kyle has a chance to end up as the best hitter in program history, a guy who through 2 years has 120 hits. You only can expect him to get better as he sees more and more collegiate pitching.
Yeah, Kyle Boudris is a silent assassin. He doesn't say much. He lets his actions speak louder than any words that he could possibly produce. And to say that he could potentially be the best hitter in program history, and going back to the 2010 season with Ryan Walsh, I mean, there was a guy who could absolutely smash baseballs, and just everything was an extra base hit. And Kyle just chips away at teams. He diminishes pitchers' confidence immediately the second he steps up, and he's continuing to do it already.
Here's a guy who's maybe a little bit more demonstrative in his actions, Dave Murphy, who's hit quite a few towering home runs throughout his career. Murphy hit an inside the park home run his first at bat, hit off the top of the fencing out there in left center on the lower part, bounced away from Mahalik, who couldn't initially find it, and then beat the relay throw home after Lasell took a while to get the ball in. As Murphy laces one, and it's just underneath the glove of Marchessault over there at third base. Beacons have now had 3 singles get just past a fielder. So 2 on now with just the 1 out. Similar situation to the last half inning. It'll be Chris Fowler who singled through the right side with the chance for his potential first RBI here in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Beacons hitting is they can either just hit the long ball all day, extra base hit, extra base hit, extra base hit, or they can put together an inning where it's single, 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 and it's just you're just watching the guys go around the bases over and over and over again, and it wears teams out pitching wise, because especially in the early part of the season, pitchers aren't at their full strength. They're not at their game of distance yet where they can go 6-7 innings. They're hoping to get 3-4 at most, and when a team like the Beacons comes up and they're just chipping away at you, adding more and more numbers to that hit column, it can really make things interesting for a coach in the early part of the season.
Well, let's take a look at last year's game. The Beacons, a similar start, raced out. They scored 2 runs in the second, 2 in the third, 5 in the fourth to take a 9-3 lead. Casey Johnson, the starter, 9 runs, 8 earned. Daniel Petter, though, came in, 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 0 earned. And now it's Petter who's been taking his lumps here. Already 5 runs, 3 of them earned in the first, 2 on here in the second as Fowler takes a breaking ball on the outside corner. 0-1 to the preseason All-American out of Barnstable, a guy who had a 37-game hit streak and maybe was one of the more surprising Beacons to break out after a sophomore season where he struggled to see a lot of at-bats and didn't do a ton with them in his first year at UMass Boston.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier. Chris transferred here from Wheaton, another New England powerhouse in baseball, and he really struggled to find a place in the lineup. It just kind of fluctuated, really seeing time here and there. And then last season he came in with a man on a mission, and it was scary what he did. And what's even scarier is he's in the best shape of his career this season, and he has just been the talk of the town. Him and Murphy, it's a 1-2 punch offensively where these guys can put balls anywhere they want, and we're talking moonshots over walls. So it should be a very interesting year for Chris as well as Dave to see how their senior year produces.
Fowler takes a pitch just off the corner. A couple of Lasell fans not happy with that. Not a surprise that he has a good eye, though. Last year finished top 50 in the nation in walks, 35 of them, 20th overall. Also finished in the top 50 in RBI with 48 and total bases with 108. That's the kind of season that Fowler had. He's the top hitter in the Beacons lineup. Laces one out to left field, just threw the bat out, and that's going to be extra bases. Boudris is going to score. Murphy's going to hold up at third, and it's a 1-out RBI double from Chris Fowler. That didn't look like all that much, but it's enough to push it to the wall, and the Beacons' lead is 6-0.
I mean, he just, again, flick of the wrist. It's standard baseball hitting, just how you're just supposed to, if you can make contact and put the ball in play, you don't have to pull it every time. You're not swinging for the fences. He just found a nice little gap down in the left field line. That scores 1 run, moves guys over to second and third, and 1 out. And, I mean, the Beacons could really blow this game wide open, and it's only the second inning.
3 consecutive hits off Petter after 5 in the first inning. Here's a guy who didn't have his greatest first at-bat. Hit the ball right back to Petter. Should have been an inning-ending double play. Would have kept the game at 2-0. But the shortstop, Tejero, couldn't make the catch on the throw back from Petter, and it extended the innings to Beacons scoring 3 more runs. Herzog, guy who had a very successful sophomore season after mostly being a pinch hitter defensive replacement, laces one out to right field, going back on it, and making the catch in right is Doris. But the Beacons will get the run as both Murphy and Fowler tag up, and UMass Boston extends their lead a little bit further to 7-2 with 2 down. So the sacrifice fly. Herzog still looking for that first traditional at bat, a fielder's choice and a sac fly to start the 2018 season. And now Fowler is out there at third base for Ryan McCormick, who singled and scored in the first base. And this is going to really be maybe the most interesting spot in the Beacons lineup. The catcher position with Anthony Searles, such a good defensive guy who didn't have his greatest offensive season as a senior, but still made contributions with the bat. The the Beacons lose Searles. They bring in a junior transfer in Jack Harrington from UMass Dartmouth. McCormick and Kyle Penny, a pair of sophomores who backed up Searles a season ago. I mean, if the Beacons can get defense at this spot, I think it's going to be even more important than what they provide offensively in this stacked lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to replace an Anthony Searles. As a freshman, came in and just grinded out a starting role that
ball
basically
bounces through Catoni, a chance for the play at the plate, and Fowler is in there in time. That's going to be a wild pitch, and the Beacons extend their lead to 8-0, 3 runs in on the inning. Sorry, Dave, for interrupting.
That's quite all right. Yeah, I mean, just talking about it, McCormick, it's his job is up for grabs right now. It's the anchoring, the quarterback position, as you would call it in baseball, is just Coach Agarbo needs a leader on the field, and it's really if it's McCormick, if he wants it, it's his for the taking. And with that, he's got to not only show up defensively every game, but he's got to put the bat to the ball a little bit too. And I think that'll really help cement his position because the two guys behind them easily could come in and grab it if the lack of leadership isn't there.
3-1 here to McCormick, a guy who showed that he had the capabilities with the bat as a freshman. Chops one over to Marcel. This should be in the inning, and it is. But UMass Boston gets 3 more runs thanks to 3 consecutive hits, including an RBI double from Chris Fowler. It's 8-0 UMass Boston through a pair of innings. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
See the Boston skyline out there in left field. A beautiful day in Boston. Over 50 degrees here on the final day in the month of February. Dave, you were talking about pitchers not being at full strength. UMass Boston, despite the big lead, despite the fact that Joey Rogers is pitching well, not sure what Rogers' pitch count. 29 pitches through 2 innings, 18 for strikes. But they already have Josh Gerson, another sophomore who was a starter a year ago, warming up. This is likely a 3-inning, maybe 4-inning at max outing for Rogers, who probably isn't going to get the win that he deserves.
Yeah, it's definitely first 4 games of the year. We're one of those fortunate teams that can play baseball end of February, early March, and we're going to get a lot of arms tested early as compared to a lot of schools in New England who don't test their arms until they go to Florida, where they're testing their arms in a gym for the whole winter, and it makes things very tough. But again, yeah, Joey most likely won't probably get the win, but it's a great opportunity to get some guys really game tested and see where we're at mentally before heading down to Florida, where they're playing one of the top schedules in the country.
Sean Doris, the left-handed right fielder, steps in for the first time, takes a first pitch, bit too far inside, 1-0. Doris, the only freshman starter for Lasell, listed as an outfielder/pitcher out of Lincoln, Rhode Island. And the count is 2-0 to the freshman. He'll be followed by Evan Mahalik, the center fielder, and then the top of the order for Lasell. There aren't a lot of New England teams playing this week, at least that aren't still in New England. But with the addition of the Northborough complex, Keene State actually played Clark yesterday. Keene State, the first LAC team in action, got the win after a hot start. There are more and more games being played in New England because of more and more turf fields, and that's been a huge reason why UMass Boston has been so successful. Their most successful 2-year run in program history, back-to-back NCAA tournaments, and a lot of that has to be pointed at this field and how it's helped the Beacons as that one's ripped out. Doris, a first collegiate hit, rips it out to right center. He'll settle for a single. Having a place that you can not only practice in the couple weeks leading up to the season if it's warm enough, but also throughout fall ball, UMass Boston finally having a home field advantage after all those years where they played all over the metropolitan Boston area and didn't have a place that they could practice and also play.
Yeah, I mean, it just you hit the nail on the head. Back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances, College World Series in just 3 years of having a turf facility, and the time these guys can get to stretch their legs, actually see live pitching that's not in a cage, the way the infield,
Chance
outfield
for
move.
2 here. It's hit softly. Murphy's going to go to second, and Huegi will hold on to the ball. First time we've seen Dave Murphy have to make a play at second base after playing the majority of his career at shortstop, and he gets the fielder's choice, eliminating the lead runner Doris with Mahalik over there at first.
Yeah, just getting back to it, it's just the turf has just – you talk to any of the guys, and you and I know better than probably anybody about going down to Brockton for a Campanelli game that may or may not happen because of snow, rain, or whatever. I mean, here we can play in rain, and you can play in some snow. And have. So, yeah, so, I mean, it's really – this field is an amazing advantage for Beacons baseball.
Nice block from Ryan McCormick on the first pitch breaking ball that bounced up there. David Marcel grounded out to third, a high chopper to start this 2018 opener for these two sides. He's got Mahalik over there at first base as Rogers has allowed a base runner in every inning, yet to give up a run here in his 2018 openers. That's a very kind call on the inside corner. Marcel was trying to get out of the way, and it ends up being strike one to even the count.
Yeah, Joey likes when he's feeling the groove. He loves to work the inside corner. Really gets batters guessing on where that ball's coming from.
Rogers, a guy who showed no fear as a freshman. That one bounces up, and another nice stop from McCormick, 2-1. Not only defeated Southern Maine here in Boston, but faced a lot of the top teams in New England, and just like he did in high school, had a lot of success. Only really struggled towards May when it got really hot. It seemed to sap a little bit of his control as he had his worst start in the NCAA tournament against Penn State Berks, allowing 5 earned in less than 5 innings. As it's 2-2 now after the swing from Marcel on a fastball that might have been out of the zone.
Yeah, Joey, again, yeah, you touched on it. As a freshman, I think going back to that NCAA tournament and the level of competition at that tournament, I think maybe rattled Joe a little bit, but his confidence throughout the regular season, the LEC tournament, I mean, you had veteran pitchers who couldn't settle down the way Joey did.
4-6-3 double play, the second consecutive inning that ends in a double play. Rogers is feeling it. UMass Boston is also hitting pretty well. It's 8-0 through 2.5 innings. We'll be back on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Got a new pitcher for Lasell College to start the bottom of the third inning. For Lasell, it's number 10, Zach Hansel, the sophomore pitcher out of Palmer, Mass. So this is going to be one of those guys who didn't see a ton of time from a year ago for Lasell. Remember, they graduated 4 of their top 5 players from a year, or for their top 5 pitchers, all seniors from a season ago. I'm trying to get you the numbers on Hansel, as the big righty out there for the first time in 2018. Hansel was limited to 9 1/3 innings as a freshman, 0-2 in 7 appearances, including a start, a 16.39 ERA, 23 hits, 20 runs, 17 earned, 4 strikeouts versus 7 walks. Opponents hit .451 against him, and 5 of those 23 hits went for extra innings. Maybe not the easiest way for Hansel to start, but again, you're down 8-0. The pressure might be off in this situation of having a perfect inning. You just want to get some outs and prove to coach that maybe you deserve a second chance, a third chance, as this team won't have another game till March 11th. So you pitch well today, you're in coach's good graces. Pitch poorly, you might be in the doghouse and might not get a chance during that 4-game set that they'll play over spring break.
Yeah, I mean, when you're coming in after, again, I mean, in college baseball, especially as a pitcher, it's a developing type thing, and so in your first game of the year, you're down 8-0, and you're taking on the third-ranked team in the country in a College World Series appearance team. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You come in, you do your job, and I think coach immediately starts looking for your number a little bit more, or in some cases, if you don't, then you might move down a couple of notches. But again, you are facing a team that is obviously carrying a ton of momentum in from 2017.
0-2 quickly to Wanderson Pinellas, the junior transfer. As he swings and rifles one right at the shortstop, Tejero, who had to just reach the glove up and make the play. Best defensive play yet for the Lasers here in 2018 to retire Pinellas, who's still looking for that first hit. He's 0 for 2. A year ago, the Beacons had every starter but one finished with a hit. That was Joey Rogers, who walked twice. So UMass Boston would like to do a similar thing today. Right now, they're still looking for their first hits from Frashino, Herzog, and Pinellas. So a little bit of work to be done. 0-1 to Anthony Cesare. This is a guy I'm very surprised to see in the starting lineup, but that first at bat, rifling a single up the middle for an RBI, a really good start for a guy that we've been hearing throughout his career. This guy can hit, he just needs a chance.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head right there. I was about to say that. Everybody's been talking him up, saying that this kid has a ton of potential, and he just really has been hit year in, year out by the injury bug, or something comes up where he just is limited, and this year I think is a good chance for him.
Nice play by Hansel, helping himself, reaching out to his left and picking up the one hopper. So 2 down. First time we've seen Lasell retire the first 2 batters in an inning, and it's Charlie Huegi with the chance to extend this inning. Huegi, in his second at bat, he's still looking for that first hit as he grounded out to end the first. UMass Boston sent 9 hitters to the plate in the first and 6 in the second. As Charlie Huegi, guy who, another one, it's much more important that his glove is there than his bat, as he filled in admirably last year at the shortstop position. And really, for UMass Boston, they focus as much on their defense as their offense. That's what Brendan Aguero preaches for this team.
Yeah, when you play on a turf facility like we do, that ball moves so much quicker. So you need guys who have a better reaction time. You really do. It's a slow glove gets eaten up here pretty quick. And so for Huegi, who, again, another guy who really didn't have anything set in stone in terms of positional standpoint, he came in last year and with the loss of Dave Murphy, just shifted everything around, and Charlie came in and just really defensively just earned the spot, like flat out just earned the spot, and he anchored a team that literally it really crumbled with the loss of Murphy, who was their big defensive player.
Well, remember, Huegi started the year last year at second base after Josh Lopez had a really slow junior season at the plate. 2-1 pitch to Huegi is high, 3-1 now. Huegi wasn't the first option as the backup shortstop. That was Eddie Riley, who struggled a little bit with the glove. Another guy the Beacons are going to look to off the bench. He's a backup infielder, also a pinch runner. And then Huegi took over, and the Beacons really got going as he works a 5-pitch walk. First base runner allowed by Hansel, and now we'll see Sal Frashino, already his third at bat in the first 3 innings. Pretty much a perfect spot if you're Brendan Aguero to see your leadoff hitter. And let's see what Frashino does. 2 outs in the inning, runner on first, and Frashino just trying to get a ball into play. We've got some ideas of what might happen up here in the booth. We'll see if they play out. Frashino, the senior who's already in the top 10 in program history in games played, heading into a senior season, which says a lot when you consider baseball players are playing 40 games a year. He's got a chance to end up towards the top all time and have it somewhere in this jumble of papers. We're a little bit more crowded than normal up here in the press box, which can't complain. Lots of good people working today. But Sal's a guy who's played all over. He's been a pitcher, center fielder. in and out of the lineup, and just when he's hot, he's such a difficult player because he's a spark plug who not only provides great defense, but also can provide a really hot bat. Saw that a lot during the regionals and the LEC tournament a year ago when the Beacon 7-8-9 was as tough as any part of their lineup.
Yeah, he's a great person you want in the bottom of your order because he's a spark plug. I mean, really, he can stretch a single to one, maybe even two extra bases, depending on the outfield and the way they're moving. He is quickly earned a reputation as one of the fastest, if not the fastest player in New England around the bases, and if he continues that this year, I mean, he's looking at not only all conference, potentially all region type of accolades.
Close play at first base, but Huegi is back there in time underneath the tag of Dom Mascalo. Frashino has already played in 131 games through his first 3 seasons, good for 10th in program history. He's also top 9 in stolen bases, 40 of 46. 22 sacrifice hits in his first 3 years, but also with some pop as he'll hit one out to left. This one should be playable, but now going back is Herring. He's not going to get there. Bounces off the monster, and being waved home is McCormick. The throw is offline, and there goes Frashino taking off for third on the errant throw. The Beacons add to their lead. It's a 2-out RBI double from Sal Frashino, and UMass Boston has put up 9 runs here in the first 2 2/3. So Frashino has now on the board in terms of hits, and every Beacon has reached with the exception of Pinales and Herzog, as Kyle Boudris, who's just 2 for 2 with a single and a double and 2 runs scored, steps up for the 3rd time. Boudris takes a first pitch fastball on the outside corner, and he is angry. That shows the kind of hitter that Boudris is. Unhappy that he knew the pitch was coming, was taken the whole way, and that's a pitch that Boudris probably would have liked to have ripped into right center.
Yeah, he's somebody who's a constant competitor at the plate, and even if he's being told he has to hold on a pitch, you know deep down all he wants to do is just smash it just somewhere deep in the outfield to give his continue to give the team a consistent offensive run.
Boudris last year, 2nd team all-conference, 2nd team all-region, 69 hits, led the team. He was also 2nd with a .369 average and 17 doubles. Only had 4 extra base hits as a freshman, so certainly the work in the weight room with athletic performance coach Jeff Ebbs is paying off for Boudris. 2-1 here with 2 down. The runner at third is Frashino, who advanced on the throw home. 2-1 pitch. Boudris takes it on the outside corner. That one looks like it might have been just off the edge, but the count runs to 2-2. Boudris trying to extend this inning and extend his perfect start to the year. 2 of 2 with 2 runs and 2 hits as the 2-2 pitch inside nearly caught him. 3-2. We'll see the full count. Boudris last year in 45 games hit safely 37 times and had 21 games with multiple hits.
Yeah, he is just somebody that if he gets going, like you said, he's 2 for 2 tonight. I mean, he's going. I mean, this could be a 5 for 5 night with him the way the pace of this game is going right now. And as I say that, I jinx it.
Mascalo bobbles it, picks it up, and it's just a 1-run inning. A significant improvement for Lasell, who gave up 5 in the first, 3 in the second, 1 in the third. It's 9-0 after 3. Beacons with 9 runs on 9 hits and 0 errors. For Lasell, 0 runs on 2 hits and 2 errors, and it's as if Marcelo Cunha, our camera operator right above me, is reading my mind as he is currently showing you that exact number. Right now, let's take a look at some highlights from these first 3 innings as UMass Boston has really been hot with the bats, also getting some good defensive play with a pair of double plays. We'll take some looks from those first 3 innings here in both teams' opener. This is the inside the park home run for Murphy, and you see originally Mahalik's backing up, go very high there. It's an adjustment. We're moving from a winter sport to a spring sport, but he can't find it on the bounce, and that's really what cost Lasell as it bounces back towards center field. Then the throw here for Tejero. He can't quite, actually that might have been the third baseman, and then the throw home is a little bit wide. I think Murphy would have scored, but that little bobble certainly didn't help the Lasers. And here's the Anthony Cesare RBI single, his first at bat in 2 years. He's able to crush one up the middle. Moving on, we've got Chris Fowler's double. This might have been my favorite offensive play of the day for UMass Boston. As you see the advancement there by Cesare. Just a little flick of the wrist. Doesn't get much on it, but a little bit of wind blowing out, and one bounces the wall to push the lead in the second inning. As UMass Boston is really doing everything right offensively through 3 frames, and Joey Rogers will at least get a chance here in the 4th. Last year, his collegiate debut on the mound went 4 innings in a win over Nichols, in which it started raining. It rained to pushed him out, and it was Steve Wachowski who got the win. Today it looks like Josh Gerson might have his chance at stealing a win on opening day. But Rogers has been so efficient. 41 pitches, 25 for strikes. You got to love that, especially on opening day where you're not 100%, to be pitching effectively and quickly with the bats working as well as they are.
Yeah, I mean, Joey just, all he does is focus baseball year in, year out, so it's not a surprise he's coming out strong like this.
One hopper to Dave Murphy at second base, and an easy play for the 5th-year senior as Zach Herring is retired for the 2nd time today. Rogers struck out 2 batters in the 1st, 1 more in the 3rd. He's gotten 2 double play balls, a line drive at the first baseman Fowler to end the 2nd inning, and a 4-6-3 to end the 3rd as he works against the heart of the order here, Marchessault and Muscalo, pair of all-conference GNAC honorees from the 2017 season. There's the breaking ball that Marchessault just shakes his head at and says, I want no part of that one.
Yeah, Joey is again, game 1 of the regular season, and he is as focused as he was in the LEC tournament right now. He's going at his pace. He's making the batters wait, and which is Joey's biggest attribute when he's pitching is he just makes people wait. He operates on his time, not yours. And the pitchers and the hitters, for whatever reason, can't figure it out. They don't make it work for them. They make Joey's life so much easier.
Penales forced to make his first play out in right field, and easily able to make the play for the junior transfer. Penales did go to high school here in Boston, but he lists his hometown, so I try to track it down amongst this roster of 38, is Bani, Dominican Republic. Both he and Reynaldo Moretta, a Fisher College transfer, another junior, both from the Dominican Republic, as is assistant coach and former Beacon, Jamil Moquette, the lone new assistant coach. He's taken over the hitting coach job, and it's got to be pretty good feeling for Jamil to have 9 runs up there in the first 3 innings. Probably won't get a lot of flack from head coach Brendan Igerbout after this one, as Muscalo way out in front of that breaking ball, 1-1.
Yeah, Jamil was one heck of a hitter when he was at UMass Boston. I know you and I joke about it all the time. The damage Jamil could have done in Monin Park would have just been unparalleled. And this was a guy who just crushed the ball all over Campanelli, and that's a semi-pro field right there. So having Jamil in this lineup would have been amazing, but having him as our hitting coach now, the proof's in the pudding in terms of 9 runs, 9 hits, and it's just the top of the 4th.
And a patient approach as well. Moquette drafted by the Baltimore Orioles organization, ripped, and Boudris gets a glove on it, not able to hold on. That's a well-deserved line drive single from Dom Muscalo. Just the 3rd hit of the game for the Lasers. Boudris couldn't quite get there. But Moquette, a guy who has professional experience, played in the low A for a season and then was banged up, stayed with the organization, but I don't believe he ever played in a game after that first season. A guy who has that kind of experience and alum, that's got to be a little bit easier for some of the players to listen to when it comes to just the kind of experience, the wealth of experience he can draw from having worked with some of those professional coaches and having sort of lived the dream that a lot of these guys want to eventually make. It doesn't matter if you're playing D1, D2, D3. In baseball, you have a chance if you can show it on the field.
Yeah, Jamil, to his credit, and when you say live the dream, he really did, because he was a draftee. He was drafted in the Major League Baseball draft, and he was the only 2nd player in program history to ever do it. So, I agree. And then to go on to that level and work with some of the best in the business, regardless of what level it is, and you can see how it's really changed him mature-wise in terms of working with the younger class of Beacons.
Moquette about one of 10 players that year. Typically, it's around 10 to 12 Division III players who are drafted. Typically, pitchers. Obviously, teams just looking for high upside, high velocity. In fact, UMass Boston played a pitcher who was drafted in the early rounds in 2016 against Haverford College, and even a Keene State player 2 years ago. Cody Doobie was picked, I believe, in the 8th round. Of course, Southern Maine Sam Dexter drafted 2 seasons ago as well by the White Sox organization. 2-1 pitch from Rogers. Another one of those curveballs. This one just misses 3-1. One of the nice things about Rogers is it's not a guy who's going to walk a ton of batters, just one thus far. He pitches to contact. He's not worried about being point perfect, and that's why the defense loves playing behind him, is this time does miss, and it's 2 runners on for the first time for Jesse Tejero as Lasell College tries to get that first run of 2018.
Yeah, Joey's somebody who, again, he's not going to try and win the game on every single pitch. He's going to let his defense do their job. I mean, there's guys behind him for a reason, so he's going to let the ball have the teams make some contact and hope his defense picks him up. And defensively, again, when you're on a turf field, our guys, the UMass Boston knows how to play the field very well, and we'll turn those key outs for him when he needs it.
Josh Gerson appears to still be warming up out there in right center field, as the Beacons likely will go to the bullpen one way or another after this inning. Here in the top of the 4th, UMass Boston leads 9-0. Swing and a miss there from Tejero, who struck out on a pitch that bounced through the legs of Ryan McCormick. There was a runner on third base. That's Robert Catoni, who has reached twice. He's the guy who just walked. And the Beacons were able to get Catoni trying to come home, so Tejero reached on the fielder's choice, but it wasn't a good result for the Lasers as that one bounces up there, and it's 2-1 now with 2 down as Rogers looks to finish off a scoreless 4 frames. Rogers went at least 4 innings in every start last year, had a complete game, I believe, against Roger Williams, and pitched 7 innings or further in 3 of his 8 starts. A guy who UMass Boston's probably going to look to start at least early on during conference weekends, as that one bounces up there 3-1, and this is the first time we've really seen Joey in any kind of trouble.
Yeah, Joey has the ability to, again, go the distance, but again, and early on in the season, the arm might be tired. I mean, he's in 3 2/3, and it's getting a little bit colder. Sun's starting to go down, so that chill's probably setting in there. The arm's tightening up a little bit more, so he's probably just, again, going to let his defense do their job like right now.
Slow chopper over to Boudris, picks it up, takes a step to his right, and the Lasers are retired. 2 left in the inning. He leaves 3 through 4 innings, and that should probably do it for the Dighton, Mass native. We head to the bottom of the 4th. The Beacons lead by 9, as it's all UMass Boston at this point. We'll take a look around the rest of the conference coming up, as UMass Boston, not the only LEC team playing games this week.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Take a look around the rest of the conference right now. 1 game has been played previously to this season opener for these 2 sides. Keene State defeating Clark yesterday at the Northborough Complex. A lot of games going on this weekend. Rhode Island College, their spring break a little bit earlier than UMass Boston's by a week. They'll play a doubleheader versus Capital on Friday, and then they're in action against Pitt Greensboro on Saturday. Keene State will head to, I think they're in Florida as well over the weekend. They'll play TCNJ twice, and Western Connecticut State taking on Marymount, Virginia at 3 p.m. on Saturday. So lots of conference games beginning. Division III has actually had games going on since early February. Defending champs Cal Lutheran or Pacific Lutheran? Cal Lutheran. Just trying to remember all these different school names. They're actually 14 games into their season, 8-6 for the defending champs. They're still in the top 10 despite their struggles, but that's a team that we had the chance to see out in Appleton, Wisconsin. They had a couple of terrific pitchers, but because they start their season so early, they only had 5 guys they relied on. Graduated their ace, graduated their number 2. So team that probably won't factor into Appleton this year after graduating so many talented players in a Division III championship year. You can't complain about that.
No, not at all. Calu was that's a special team that you and I got to see, and being in Appleton is just a privilege in itself. But seeing the real top talent of Division III is a lot of fun. And what the Calu pitching did out there was very impressive. I mean, they just came in. The guys just had rubber arms. They were just nonstop, whatever you need, and they did their own. Calu, the funny thing was they did their own thing every single day of the week. You had guys coming into the hotel with fishing poles, and they just played baseball and enjoyed every second of it.
Dave Murphy retired for the first time today as he grounds out to the third baseman. So the Beacons still looking for that first leadoff base runner. That's the one thing they've struggled today, 0 for 4. They haven't had any issues after that with 5 runs in the first, 3 in the second, 9 total hits thus far. The Beacons just looking for a triple to hit for the cycle as a team. Chris Fowler, 2 for 2, a single, a double, an RBI, and a pair of runs scored for the Barnstable native as he takes one inside. And thus far, Zach Hansel has not only pitched quickly, he's pitched pretty effectively for his team, just giving up that RBI double from Frashino that might have been caught on a day with a little bit less wind.
Yeah, he's really kind of settled things down for Lasell. I think their nerves first game of the year playing the defending LEC and regional champs probably was a huge factor for their pitching. Starting pitcher came in, he wanted to really put on a show, and it didn't work out that way. So I think now again you said it, 9-run deficit. There's really no pressure. The pitcher's not up there hitting trying to score runs. He's just trying to keep runs off the scoreboard, and I think he's done that very effectively.
Hansel ahead in the count, 1-2 against Chris Fowler. 1-2 pitch, hit back up the middle. A chance for Marcel, ranging towards second base. Long throw, it's there in time. Pair of groundouts to start the 4th inning. And Hansel, if he can get this last out, will have allowed just 1 earned in a pair of innings. He'll face off against Nick Herzog, still looking for that first hit. Hit into a fielder's choice back to the pitcher where there was an error. And then an RBI sacrifice fly out to right field in the second, as the Beacons had 9 hitters in the first, 6 in the second, and then they were limited to 5 in the third. This could be the shortest inning as Herzog's behind the count. The other thing is Hansel's been throwing a lot of strikes. It seems like every Beacons hitter has been behind the count. The 0-1 to Herzog bounces up there.
Yeah, the Beacons they still have a great approach in every at-bat. They're being patient. They're not jumping on the first pitch, which is a great thing. It's one of my all-time pet peeves. My father's all-time pet peeves is first pitch swinging, and it's just it really can deflate a team immediately when you ground on a first pitch of an inning rather than making the pitcher work for their outs. And the guys are still holding to the approach, even though there is a 9-0 lead. I think they're still being smart about how they're going at the pitcher and at Lasell, and so hopefully this mentality continues not only through the game, but this is something that's going to be more consistent throughout the year.
Beacons lead 9-0 here in the bottom of the 4th inning. Seth Orensky joined by David Wahlberg on opening day. UMass Boston Lasell College 2-1 just misses the inside corner. 3-1 now to the Beacons junior captain, one of 3 captains on this year's team, alongside Brian Kaufman, who don't believe he'll come out of the pen today, and Dave Murphy, who's back with the Beacons as Herzog hits it over the third baseman, Marchessault. Chance for a 1-2-3 inning, and that's our first 1-2-3 of the game as the Beacons have given up a couple base runners before getting double plays. We head to the 5th, UMass Boston 9, Lasell College 0 here at Monin Park in Boston.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Joey Rogers will start the fifth inning. The Beacons trying to get him the victory. We were told that he was going to try to be limited to 75 or fewer. Right now he's at 59 pitches, 33 for strikes. So if he can get the first one or two batters, he might go a little over 75 for that third out. But obviously if there's any trouble for the sophomore southpaw, then he's likely to be pulled in the middle of this inning. Thus far he's pitched well, allowed 3 hits, 2 walks, has been helped by his defense, turning those 2 double plays, has 3 strikeouts as well. But this is a good sign because, remember, UMass Boston, they are playing a couple of games in a short period before they go to Florida. Play today, then they're back in action, we think, on Saturday, despite a little bit of bad weather. And then 2 more games Monday, Tuesday against Brandeis and MIT before heading to Florida. You mentioned it earlier. Beacons are going to play one of the toughest schedules in the country in Florida. They play 7 games in Florida, 5 of them against teams that made it to the NCAA tournament. There is a huge swing, and unfortunately, if you're a Lasell fan, a miss from Jesse Tejero, the shortstop, who was trying to hit that ball, well, somewhere into the apartments behind the left field fence. As it's now 1-1 to Tejero. Actually, that's Brett Sharon. I'm behind in my score sheet. Little bit all over the place for game number 1 as we were struggling to get everything set up in time. But Sharon behind 1-1 as Tejero made the last out of the 4th inning, a ground out to third base with 2 runners on. And this is what you want to see from Rogers, who was struggling, had issued that walk in the 4th, was behind a couple batters to come out and throw some strikes.
Yeah, again, there's no pressure on his back right now, and I think coaches kind of give him a little bit of wiggle room because the lead is so big, and to work some batters, and unfortunately that one just got away from Joe on that one.
Yeah, there's the old let the ball come in and hit you. No argument coming from the Beacons bench. That was such a point of emphasis a season ago on whether the batter made an attempt to get out of the way, but I think the ruling there is Sharon's elbow wasn't close to the plate, plus in a 9-0 game, you're not going to get as many arguments as Brett Doris, who lined a single out to right center in his first collegiate at bat, looks to go 2 for 2 here. Takes a fastball on the outside corner, 0-1, and this is where if you pitch to contact, you're just hoping your defense can help you out. The Beacons, a pair of shortstops in the middle infield, that typically helps when you're trying to turn 2, and Murphy and Huegi were able to turn a 4-6-3 to end the 3rd as Doris swings and misses. Quickly 0-2 to the 8-hole hitter for Lasell.
Yeah, getting good talk about Murphy and Huegi. It should be very fun to watch the 2 of them play in the middle infield this year. 2 quick, very quick players that have a great knowledge of the game, great awareness of what's going on.
Line right at Murphy. He's not going to be able to make the play over at first base as Sharon got back in time. But another ball that was hit decently well, and the Beacons defense situated in the right spot. A lot of credit to Kevin Kelly and this Beacons coaching staff, who spends a ton of time when it comes to defensive positioning, trying to get the fielder in the exact right spot based off of statistics.
Yeah, when I used to travel with the team to Florida, they would spend a solid 2 hours working on defensive alignments, spray charts, things of that nature. I mean, our coaching staff, in my opinion, is one of the most detail-oriented, one of the most focused coaching staffs I've ever seen across any sport, and they really are students of the game. They work every X and O, and that's a lot of credit to Coach Igerbro, who really, when he brings in an assistant coach, he wants them to be on the same mindset he is.
Evan Mahalik flares one out to center field on the second pitch. An easy catch for Sal Frashino, and there's 2 down. Beacons coaching staff has worked together for a while, or there's a lot of guys who played under Brendan Igerbro, so the expectations are set. Kevin Kelly and Brendan Igerbro, the Beacons' 2 longest tenured. Those guys know each other going back to their Suffolk days. And then you look, Daniel Gamble, the Beacons pitching coach, course, played under Brendan Eigerbrodt here at UMass Boston. Bobby Barrett, the Beacons' third base coach, has been with UMass Boston for a while. Jamil Moquette played under Brendan Eigerbrodt. Then you have Ryan Campbell, who was a team manager a season ago. He's still a student, but he's on the coaching staff this year. And then you have Ryan McDermott, who didn't play with the Beacons, but he played at UMass Dartmouth, a guy who knew what UMass Boston was about before he came on board.
Yeah, it just top to bottom, the knowledge, the awareness, and the ability to work with the players. I mean, that's one thing. It's one thing to know the game, but it's another thing to be able to pass on what you're trying to teach these players, and the relationship and just the overall camaraderie from coaches and respect to the players and vice versa really has made the program what it is today.
Murphy ranges to his left. The throw is offline there, and that's going to be an infield single as David Marcel picks up his first hit. Marcel able to beat it out. It would have been a decently close play, but that was a long run for Murphy, and unfortunately for UMass Boston, both middle infielders going for the sliding play. If one guy covered the bag, they might have had the easier play at second. Instead, there's 2 on with 2 outs for Zach Herring. Herring is 0 for 2 thus far, struck out swinging in the first, grounded out to second to start the fourth. As Brett Sharon up to second base and Marcel reaching on the infield single. 1-0 here. Rogers looking to get that last out, the all-important last out of the 5th inning to earn that win. He went 4-0 a season ago. One of a number of Beacon starters who actually finished with 4 or more wins. Dan Mantoni and Matt Tully did so as well. And I think Brian Kaufman ended up with 6 wins as a reliever, including the all-important LEC championship game in which he went 6 innings and had 12 strikeouts. Neither team has really substituted much. We've only seen the one pitching change. That came from Lasell. I think if this game stays where it is, we're likely to see more and more substitutions as this game goes along. The 1-1 is ripped past Boudreaux. Lasell should be on the board. Sharon doesn't run all that well, but Herzog's not going to get it in time. Play at third base, and the tag is not there in time. So a 2-out RBI single from Zach Herring. And now the question is, will the Beacons stick with Rogers? The goal was for 75 pitches, and he's closing in on that mark. Zach Herring picks up his first hit of the year, and that's going to end up as an RBI single with Andre Marchessault stepping up. Marcel moving all the way over to third base, and Sharon scoring after being hit by a pitch. So the first run of the year for Lasell. They've now had 3 hits in their last 2 innings and multiple base runners for 2 innings in a row after not doing so in the first 3. Marchessault takes a breaking ball that didn't quite break as much as Rogers wanted. 1-0. You can see in the background, camera's a little bit too far zoomed out up top, but it looks like there's some Boston College high school players just taking a little bit of captain's practice out on the junior varsity field behind center field. The 1-0 is popped off. Could be playable. Fowler and McCormick over on the first base side, and Fowler's not going to get there. Beacons do not communicate, and that will extend the inning for Andre Marchessault.
Yes, Seth, that's an example I think McCormick is going to have to learn kind of as the year goes on. He's really got to take charge. Fowler can swing a great bat, but sometimes with the glove, you're just kind of like, I don't know. So McCormick's really going to have to step up in situations, to kind of quote soccer, 50-50 balls, if you will. He's going to have to step in and really kind of take charge of the mound, and that's one thing I think the Beacons will miss about Anthony Searles, his ability to pick up those outs that should be outs and not extend an inning any longer than it needs to.
McCormick able to keep the bouncing ball in front of him. He's done a nice job there. Haven't seen many balls bounce away. The one thing I will say is that pop-up might have actually been easiest for Joey Rogers, the rare instance where you have a pitcher who's used to pop-ups more than either of your infielders as a right fielder. Ball hit over to Huegi. He'll go to short way to second, and the inning ends with just the 1 run as Lasell leaves 2 on. But the 2-out RBI single from Zach Herring puts Lasell on the board. We're halfway through. It's UMass Boston 9, Lasell 1 in this 2018 opener.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university.
UMass Boston already with 9 runs on 9 hits. They just had their first 1-2-3 inning, their first scoreless inning in the 4th, and they'll look to end that real quick. They'll go 6, 7, 8 in the bottom of the 5th. Ryan McCormick, Wanderson Pinellas, and Anthony Cesare working against the sophomore Zach Hansel. Pitched well. He's gone 2 innings, allowed just the 1 hit. It was an RBI 2-out double from Sal Frashino. And the 1 walk. Outside of that, has been able to limit this Beacons lineup that recorded 8 hits, 8 runs, 6 earned in 2 innings against the only returning starter for this Lasell team, Daniel Petter. It's one of their 2 aces from a year ago. 1-1 to McCormick. The Beacon sophomore catcher is outside. 2-1. And this is the point where if you're Jameel Moquette, if you're Brendan Igerbro, you want to focus on not just letting this game continue to drift at 9-1, not just for who cares what the final score is, but to keep your confidence up, since this Beacons team won't see live pitching from another team until Saturday or even potentially Monday. You don't want to have some bad habits form at this point of the ball game.
Yeah, especially since once you even get out of New England regional play and head down to Florida, you can't sit back against nationally ranked teams and teams that have went to the College World Series in the NCAA regional
McCormick absolutely rifles that one over the head of Doris, and it's a 1 bouncer over the wall, a ground rule double. Second hit of the day for McCormick, who joins quite a few other Beacons with 2 hits with a double and a single. And the Beacons have their first leadoff base runner as Ryan McCormick. Now 2 of 3, already with a run scored, and it's Wanderson Pinellas looking for that first hit. Dominican Republic native who hit extremely well. Hit extremely well in 2 years at Western Oklahoma State, which is a school that I can quite honestly say I've never heard of prior to meeting Wanderson. That one's just a little bit high. But not only has it had a lot of success, it's a unique program in that, according to Wikipedia, they recruit a lot of Latino players to play there. So you have a community for those players who are being recruited out of the Northeast. And for Pinellas, this is a perfect situation where he gets to come home. This is a long throw for Marchessault, just beats the speedy Pinellas. It's a situation where maybe you're going to a place you've never heard of, rural Oklahoma, very different from your hometown, but you have a community of players who have those shared interests, have that shared background, makes it a little bit easier of an adjustment period, I would presume. Obviously, I haven't done that myself.
Sometimes, yeah. Speaking from a recruiting standpoint, sometimes when your mindset is, okay, I want to play some baseball, I want to try and play at the highest level. Sometimes players will need to get out of their comfort zones, need to get out of the area that they grew up in, and seeing normal faces and the faces they've always played baseball with, and kind of experience what it's like to play at a completely different environment, completely different state, part of the country. And some of the areas in the Midwest and further west, I mean, baseball baseball is God, and the experiences that some of these players get at a young age is some things they don't forget.
Zach Herring, kind of a similar situation for Lasell, guy who played junior college baseball in his native California, has come all the way out to Lasell College to play baseball in the Boston area, as McCormick finding a little bit of a disruption for Hansel out there at second base. Did not advance on the ground out to third. This will be Anthony Cesare, who's 1 for 2. Had a hard line drive single up the middle, 2-run single, and then grounded back to the pitcher in the third. Cesare did not have an at-bat as a sophomore, missed the entire year and had to redshirt, so now he's in his second sophomore season for UMass Boston. Had just 2 hits as a freshman, I think 10, maybe 12 at-bats, so a chance right here to match his career hit total in the 5th inning of the Beacons season opener.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's also a great chance to prove. And again, we've said it a bunch of times tonight. Is when you can get a game in late February before you even go to Florida, while everybody else is still playing in the gym and just trying to get some time on a field. This is the best time to prove yourself. And then if that momentum can carry into playing teams like St. John Fisher, Rochester Institute of Technology, I mean, you're really putting yourself in a great spot in that lineup where you just make it harder for coach to forget.
2 pitches over the head of Doris. This one is going to get over the right field fence again. So the Beacons with 2 ground roll doubles almost to the exact same spot. And the Beacons have pushed their lead to 10-0. UMass Boston now, if I'm getting this right, the Beacons have 5 doubles on their first 11 hits, 10 total runs scored. And Cesare, we talked about McCormick playing for his job a little bit to start the season. Well, Cesare's in that same spot. I mean, you look up and down the Beacons lineup. Rogers is a guy who's going to DH occasionally if he's hitting. There's certainly some other guys. Ronaldo Moretta has played well in the past. Even Eddie Riley, they probably want to get him some at-bats just to keep him hot. If Jack Harrington's hitting, he might be a guy who can get some DH starts. So if Cesare kind of has to hit, as this one's chopped right at the third baseman. Marchestalt struggled with it, but he was in far enough that he's able to recover and throw out Huegi, who's still looking for his first hit, as the Beacons have sandwiched a pair of doubles in between a pair of groundouts to third.
Yeah, that was a solid hit. I mean, again, the ball took a quick hop off the turf, kept it in front of him, got him on the out. But again, making good contact. You're not going to win the World Series in the first game of the year. So you're just working on your fundamentals right now, getting comfortable in the batter's box, facing live pitching for real, not a scrimmage. So again, I think the Beacons are doing everything right in terms of their approach offensively, and defensively they've really maintained it as well. And Rogers, as of right now, is the only pitcher we've seen for the Beacon staff. And what more could you ask from him in the first game of the year?
Allowing just the 1 run on 5 hits through 5 innings. His day is likely done. We thought it might have been done after the second and third, but we expect UMass Boston to go to the pen as they were trying to limit Rogers to 5 innings. The weather's changing a little bit. The wind is occasionally blowing in. I'm feeling some colder gusts as it was 58 and sunny to start. Right now we're getting closer to sundown at 4:39 on the East Coast. Frashino swings and misses. Down 0-2 at this point to Hansel. Sal on the day, 1 for 3, struck out in his first 2 at-bats, and then had an RBI double in the third. UMass Boston has scored at least 1 run in 4 of the first 5 frames. Anthony Cesare's out there at second base. And honestly, Dave, I haven't seen enough of Anthony to give you a scouting report on how he runs, just because he's seen so little time in his first 2 years because of injuries. Frashino takes it on the outside corner. Sal didn't like it. It doesn't matter as the Beacons go down after scoring just the 1 run in the 5th. It's now 10-1 UMass Boston. So we'll take a look around the rest of Beaconville in what's a very busy week after this commercial break.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
got a pitching change for UMass Boston, but first we'll take a look around the rest of Beaconville. Winter sports haven't ended despite the fact that the spring sports are underway. In fact, we've had 2 spring sports open their season in the last 2 days. UMass Boston lacrosse opened with a nice 13-11 win over New England College yesterday. UMass Boston women's basketball team, their first ever NCAA tournament game. They'll take on St. Joe's of Maine up at Amherst College on Friday at 7. And the women's hockey team looking to make the NCAA tournament as well. They'll travel to Norwich on Saturday at 3 for the New England Hockey Conference Championship. Before we talk about those teams, let's take a look at the new pitcher. This is a guy who the Beacons are really high on. Sophomore Ben Gottesman didn't see a ton of time last year. 0-0, 2.08 ERA, limited to 4 1/3 innings in 5 total appearances, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. But we will get Dave Wahlberg on in a second. First, Dave, let's talk about the other teams that are going on. The women's basketball team, a big upset win over UMass Dartmouth. The women's hockey team looking to do the same. It's wild to have the crossover as pronounced as it is right now, but certainly a chance to make what has already been a very successful winter season even more so if the Beacons can send 2 teams to the NCAAs this winter.
Yeah, it's been a very busy last 3 years for UNI, and we got a crash course in it when both hockey teams won their respective tournaments back in 2016, and handling going up to Middlebury, Vermont, while having the baseball team down in Florida playing a bunch of games, and the fact that it is it's a good problem to have. It really is, and the way our teams have grown and developed in such a short time, it's across the board. And what women's basketball did this past weekend was amazing. I really think they shocked the LEC and really set their place as one of the top New England programs. And women's hockey is going to do the same thing. They've become a program that has become accustomed to winning, and they're going to continue to do that.
Well, they've already won 2 postseason games, looking to make it 3 in a row as Dom Mascalo flies out to right. Wanderson Pinales seen a little bit more action out there in right and seems to be handling it just fine. As Robert Catone will step up. He's reached safely twice, a triple, and then was thrown out trying to score on a wild pitch and walked back in the 4th inning as he faces Geisman. Let's talk about Ben. From everything I've heard, Ben is a guy who's going to see a lot more time this year because of an increase in velocity. Another one of those guys who's constantly thinking about baseball. He's worked really hard, and he's gone from 78 to 82 to 82 to 86, and that's the kind of progression you want to see from a guy who recognized that it might not be his time as a freshman, but has a chance here on opening day to see some innings, and a guy who could see a lot more time with a couple of the Beacons pitchers not quite ready to start the year, a little bit banged up here in late February.
Yeah, again, you said it. He was very patient as a freshman. You can't expect to come in on a program and with the staff that we had last year and expect to get a lot of innings. It's just unrealistic, barring a big injury bug, and we didn't hit that last year. So this year, I think this is another great opportunity for a player that can prove himself, and the increase in velocity and the work in the gym with Jeff and then the work with Coach Gamble. I mean, it's all going to pay dividends in the end when you can come in and really just take over in the middle relief position.
Gottesman thought he had the strikeout. Beacons appealed down to first base, and they ruled that Catone may have held up. 2-2 here to the catcher. So he's trying to keep his reach safely streak intact. Reach safely in 2 at-bats, 1 of 1 with a walk. 2-2 pitch flared out in foul territory down the right field side. Fans coming and going throughout the afternoon. It started nice, not so nice overall, as it looks like one of the fans may have made the catch out there on the far side. Let's take a look at the temperature. Today's high was 58, thinking that we've already dipped at least into the high 40s, if not lower, as a lot of people are shivering out there outside the press box. Well, right now my phone says it's 57, and that does not sound correct.
I disagree completely.
The sun is down. The clouds are coming out as it's a full count here with 1 out. And that one's just a bit high. So Catone has worked 2 of the 4 walks today for Lasell. He's reached safely all 3 times. Final line on Rogers, who's in line for the win. 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. Not much more that you could ask for from a guy who's in his first appearance of the season. And also, this is the earliest start that UMass Boston's ever had to be pitching as well as he did, especially here in New England, where it's not as nice as it's going to be in Florida. There's a weak swing and a miss from Tejero. That's very impressive from a guy who is going to have to shoulder an even bigger load as a sophomore.
Yeah, I mean, again, the workload is going to double for him this year with the loss of Mantoni and Tully, and to come out in, like you said, colder weather and to go 5 innings. I mean, there's not too many teams in New England with a bullpen as deep as UMass Boston's is, and be able to do that. And then again, that takes a lot of pressure off of guys like Gottesman, Gerson, who are coming out of the bullpen, who are trying to still find their place in the world. And again, it makes their life so much easier. And you can tell Gottesman, a sophomore, didn't get a lot of innings last year. He's calm right now. He's settled. He's just focused on getting outs. He's not pitching he's not trying to overpower guys. He's just pitching to make his defense help him out.
Well, it certainly helps that he has a 10-1 lead, just as we saw really strong relief thus far from Zach Hansel, who came in with a 9-0 deficit. When you have a big lead or a big deficit as a relief pitcher, you just can be a little bit looser, recognizing that you're not going to make or break the game. 0-1 here to Brett Sharon, the designated player, who lined into a double play to first base to end the second, and then was a hit by a pitch and scored back in the fifth. Lasell, 16-16 a year ago, finished 10-4 in the GNAC, 10 wins against the teams below them in the standings, 4 losses to the top 2 teams, St. Joseph, Maine, and Suffolk. And that's a really tough conference if you're not one of the top 2 teams, because those teams have such great records. As there's a strikeout and the question is a wild pitch or a pass ball? As that's going to go down as a pass ball on Ryan McCormick, who couldn't make the catch. Second time today, the Beacons have had a ball get past their catcher on strike 3. First strikeout for Gottesman, but he's in a little bit of a jam.
Number 11, Sean Doris.
With 2 on and 2 outs now for Sean Doris, who's hit the ball hard twice to the right side. A single out to right center, and then a hard line drive right at Dave Murphy, the Beacons' second baseman.
Yeah, tough play. Gottesman thought he was out of the inning. So now, again, these are situations that are going to happen during the year. Not every inning is going to be perfect and just wrap it up in a present and tie a bow off on it. So he's going to have to learn how to dig deep right now and figure out, okay, didn't go your way. You got the strikeout, but you didn't. So now you got to come back at him, which he has. He's down. He's already got 2 strikes on the batter, and so he just got to keep rolling with that, and that's how you develop your maturity as a pitcher, especially in a conference like the Little East.
Well, you can see why that increase in velocity is going to help Gottesman, because his off-speed pitches are really filthy. That was a great breaking ball that Doris was way out in front of. The fastball trying to get him to chase just outside, and Doris holds up. I mean, Gottesman is showing the fans here at home what he's capable of. Didn't get to see much of him, just 4 1/3 innings as a freshman. The Beacons really relied on 3 or 4 arms. A lot of guys were limited to 5 or less innings. Doris flares one out on the third base side. Not enough room over there for Kyle Boudris, and it'll bounce into the turf facility over at Boston College High School's soccer, lacrosse, football stadium that they share with UMass Boston. Lots of sharing going on between the private and public institutions. BC High will start their season after the Beacon spring break. So right now it's just the UMass Boston show here at Monin Parks. That one's flared out, foul again. Good work from Doris here, extending. Lasell's going to have a long break after today because they don't have a turf facility of their own. The Lasers do not play again till the 11th of March when they travel to St. Mary's University of Maryland for a pair of games. Then they play William Peace on the 13th of March. That's a school in North Carolina I found out yesterday. There's a swing and a miss from Doris, and that'll do it for the inning. And they'll close out their spring break trip at Guilford College on the 14th. So a lot to work on for Lasell between today and the 11th of March. Right now we'll take a break and be back with the bottom of the 6th. The Beacons led 9-0 early. It's 10-1 after 5.5.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
Bottom of the 6th inning, UMass Boston leads 10-1, 10 runs on 11 hits, no errors. Lasell with 1 run on 5 hits and 2 errors, and this is going to be the 4th inning of work for Zach Hansel. Very impressive for a guy who, I'm trying to remember his numbers from a year ago, I believe it was a 16.39 ERA, only threw 9 1/3 innings as a freshman. He's got a chance to reach the halfway mark of that if he can get through this inning and a little bit more, as he's gone through 3 innings, allowing 2 runs thus far, both earned, and 3 total hits. Not too bad for a guy who didn't have all that much success as a freshman. He'll have to face off against 2, 3, 4 in the Beacons lineup. All 3 guys, Kyle Boudreaux, Dave Murphy, and Chris Fowler. The 3 guys have combined for 6 hits in their 9 at-bats, 6 runs scored, a homer, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. Not a bad start for the Beacons, 2, 3, 4. A trio of all-region players throughout their careers, Kyle Boudreaux, Dave Murphy, and Chris Fowler.
Yeah, again, we keep saying it. You just can't ask for a better start. I think the only other better start that comes to mind is actually when we opened Monon Park and we faced MIT, who at the time was a New England powerhouse, and they still are, don't get me wrong, but that year they were really one of the top teams in New England, and Dan Mantoni came in and pitched a near no-hitter up until about the 7th inning.
Oh, no, it was the 9th inning. Steve Consiglio, who's listening, at least was earlier, gave up a hit in the 9th inning, the senior closer. The Beacons went through 6 or 7 different pitchers. Problem was Steve Consiglio was one of those guys who was constantly thinking baseball, came in recognizing what was going on. Some pitchers aren't really paying attention to what's going on around them. Steve recognized it. Actually almost blew the game as the Beacons were leading 4-0. Gave up a couple base runners, and the Beacons closed it out. We're laughing now, but it was certainly a stressful situation back in 2016.
Yeah, but barring Steve's performance, we'll call it, it was a great. It was another just everybody was doing their jobs top to bottom, and the results showed, and that really catapulted what is now becoming Beacons baseball as one of the most recognizable teams in New England, if not in the country. And to Steve's credit, he did make up for it in the end of that year when UMass Boston won their first ever LEC regular season championship, and they became just the 4th program in LEC history to ever host the conference tournament. Which a shout out to the crew that year, did an amazing job. It's a lot of baseball, and it was really an amazing year for Monon Park and UMass Boston.
Great way to open it. This park just 3 years old. The Beacons 31-9 over their first 2 seasons. Looks like they're well on their way to a 32nd victory in 41 all-time innings. Of course, Steve Consiglio was on the mound, the final pitcher in that regular season to close it out, and one of our former student workers, which is why I give him a little bit more flack than I would guy that I'm not as familiar with, is Boudreaux, content to work the walk. The Beacons have now had leadoff base runners in each of the past 2 innings after not getting through the first 4. And we're going to see our first position change for UMass Boston. Eddie Riley will come in as a pinch runner for Kyle Boudreaux. Likely will stay in there at third base, a guy who throughout his career has played at short, third, and second, even a little bit of outfield for UMass Boston. Riley will be out over there at third base. Dave Murphy will be over there at third base, currently sitting on first base. Dave Murphy is the batter for UMass Boston. Boudreaux' day will end 2 for 3, a double, a single, a walk, 2 runs scored. Replaced by Eddie Riley, the junior out of Quincy, Mass. Riley will dive back in there. Now Murphy, who's 2 for 3 with an inside the park home run, 2 runs scored, 2 RBI. A chance to potentially add to his RBI total. Had 48 as a junior before missing most of last season with an injury. Ended up redshirting. Takes a very nice breaking ball in the inside half. Dave, when going through some of these Beacons batters, taking some notes, this was the note that maybe most astounded me. Dave Murphy, between Massasoit Community College and UMass Boston, 127 career games, 132 career RBI.
Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with when he got here, and I think he did not let down in one way or the other with his coaching staff. He came in here, established himself as one of the top hitters in the conference, and unfortunately, but fortunately, he was sidelined last year due to an injury. But you forget that in the few games he played leading up to deciding to redshirt last season, he was an extra base machine. I mean, down in Florida,
he was a pinch hitting machine.
Yeah, and so he even with the sports hernia, he was still able to swing a big bat. And coming to see him today, and I think the question for me was seeing Dave face live pitching in a real game. Where if this game was closer, how would he perform? Defensively, he's moving well, great range of motion, and offensively, he has not missed a beat. He really hasn't.
I mean, only fortunate bats last year, but that included a walk-off single against the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh down in Florida, 3-run pinch hit home run against Wheaton College in a game the Beacons eventually lost after blowing a couple of leads. But, of course, Wheaton, a College World Series team, and a couple of big hits in Boston as well as the 1-2 to Murphy. Caught on the inside breaking ball, strikes out there. So Hansel continues to not back down against this potent Beacons lineup. That is strikeout number 2 for Hansel. 5th total strikeout for the Lasell staff today. And that'll bring up Chris Fowler, who somehow, some way had an even bigger season for UMass Boston last year than Murphy had 2 years ago when he finised with 30 extra base hits.
Yeah, Fowler was a guy who realized the loss that was Murphy and how that took some pop out of the batting, out of the rotation, or out of the lineup, excuse me. But again, he took advantage of a situation, stepped in as a starter, took over as first baseman, solid glove, and then really let his bat do all the talking. Became a household name in New England, and in the Little East Conference for sure, and earned immediate respect for it, the way the pitchers were pitching to him. And this was a guy, like you said, who was just killing for at-bats in his first year here, and then next thing you know, I mean, he is just a hitting machine, finding the gaps, and if he's not finding the gaps, he's getting walked because he was just respected that much by the pitchers across the region.
And don't forget, Fowler and Murphy, best of friends, certainly some of the closer guys on this Beacons roster, so impacted him seeing one of his friends go down and sort of filled in on that role. It's the reason he got to be a starter, as Charlie Huegi moved from first, second. He played a little bit of both there to start the season a year ago, over to shortstop, opening up that starting role, and Fowler took advantage of 37-game hitting streak, longest in Beacons program history, hit a big home run against his former team, Wheaton, the College World Series, a game the Beacons ended up winning. Chops that one softly down the first base side, stays alive. The Beacons, the 3rd-ranked team in the country right now, highest ever national ranking, not only to start a season, just period, and they've put up a really strong start, 10-1. You can see UMass Boston here at Monin on Saturday. Games at noon right now against Stevens Institute of Technology. Weather looks bad early in the day, might get pushed back. Then the Beacons will play Brandeis and MIT Monday, Tuesday next week as Fowler hits one out to center. Should be playable for Mahalik, camps under it, and there's 2 down here in the 6th as this game's pace has certainly sped up since Hansel stepped in. We were looking at a potential 4.5 hour game. Right now in the bottom of the 6th, we're just about to hit the 2-hour mark in a game that started a minute or two after the 3 o'clock hour on the East Coast.
Yeah, Hansel's really come in, settled down, and in looking at the Lasell bullpen, this is his game. I mean, unless he really starts getting tired or tells his coaches that his arm is starting to go, it's looking like he may go the next 2 innings or possibly the rest of the game, and that's a credit to him because the Lasell, it was like you said, looking really like this was going to be a 4.5, 5 hour game. He's really picked up the pace, and I think it's also thrown off the Beacons hitters a little bit. So this is another example of how early in the season they're going to have to learn to adjust to the way a pitcher's pitching or make their lives easier.
Herzog hits it hard, but right at Marcel, the second baseman. Another quick inning for UMass Boston. They still lead 10-1 through 6 innings. We head to the 7th. We'll have an update for you on one of our graphics as the Beacons lead by 9 through the first 6.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
Welcome back into the press box here at Monin Park. Seth Dorensky joined by David Wahlberg. We've been trying trivia questions at hockey the last 2 years. We're going to try a trivia question at baseball, trivia question of the day. We're not sure how successful it'll be. Sometimes it's just the one broadcaster. I'm the one who wrote it, so if I wrote it and know the answer, it makes it difficult. But, Dave, this one's for you.
Okay.
UMass, Boston, Lasell College have met in back-to-back season openers. Who was the last team UMB met in 2 straight openers? I'll give you a big hint. It wasn't in Florida, so it's a Mass school, but that's as far as the hint is going to go. You've got a little bit of time to think about it. If you're at home, don't cheat. It is on the website, but just take some time to ponder it. We'll have the answer for you in the top of the 7th inning as the Beacons lead by 9, and Ben Gottesman will come on for his 2nd inning of work. Gottesman in that 6th inning worked around a walk, had a strikeout, and did not allow a run. The Beacons lead 10-1. Anthony Searles is trying to think about it. I'll give you another hint, Anthony. Well before your time. We're talking before even you were at college, Dave, and you're not that old. There's certainly some older people that we work with. But I'm saying that this happened a while ago. The Beacons typically mix up their schedule from year to year. But this is a school that UMass Boston saw a lot in the past, hasn't been on the schedule the last couple of years. So those are all the hints that I can possibly throw out. It's 0-1 here to the leadoff hitter, Evan Mahalik, the 9-hole hitter, to be followed by what we assume is David Marcel and Zach Herring. At this point of the game, likely to see some more pinch hitters and pinch runners as both teams' coaches try to go a little bit deeper into this roster on opening day. 0-2 pitches outside, bouncing up there. 1-2 to Mahalik, who is 0 for 2 today, and a fielder's choice to the second baseman in the 4th, and flew out to center back in the 5th. 1-2 offering from Gottesman. This one's flared out to right. Penales loses the hat, but makes the play. And there's 1 out in the 7th.
Yeah, Gottesman's really come in and again, shown great control. Great control with his pitches in that situation. Just working the count, got ahead to 0-2, and it ended the at-bat with just a little flare out to right field, which is all you need to do in this situation. You're not trying to overpower people, especially when you're just trying to get some innings under your belt. And he comes right at the next batter, fouled it right off. Nice high heat, and now he's most likely going to go to the breaking ball, see if he can get him leaning a little bit, and just continues a solid debut.
0-1 pitch to the leadoff hitter, just over the glove of Dave Murphy at second base. Went up the ladder, but couldn't quite scale it high enough, and it's a single there from David Marcel. He's 2 for 4. And the Lasers have a 1-out base runner here in the top of the 7th.
The left fielder, number 2, Zach Herring.
And what I like about what we've seen from all these relievers is everyone's pitching quickly.
Yes.
The last thing you want to do if you're a reliever in a game like this is slow down the pace of play, because your defenders are already a little bit more likely to become lackadaisical in a 9-run game. And all of these relievers, both Hansel and Ben Gottesman, have worked quickly. They've been pretty accurate around the strike zone, and that's what the fans want to see, and that's what the coaches want to see, as these sophomores who didn't see a ton of time last year try to earn the trust of their head coach and pitching coaches.
Yeah, plus, again, end of February, in the way UMass Boston's campus is, being right next to the water, we're always 10 degrees colder. So even though the Weather Channel bug says it's 57 degrees, it's more like 37, and as the sun continues to diminish, it just gets cold here. And so everybody is like, let's move this game along, let's get out of here, and I think the relievers have done that. I don't think the weather was really in their mindset, but again, I think everybody around them is appreciating it.
Beacons do have a right-handed reliever warming up, and it looks like it's the older McGuire. You have to focus on that, as Pat McGuire joined his older brother Joe McGuire with the Beacons baseball team this year. Joe McGuire coming off a tremendous sophomore season out of the pen, and he'll likely be the next guy in for the Beacons. This one's flared out to right. Going back on it as Murphy has time and makes the play. Dave Murphy has looked pretty confident over there. talk about a fielder adjusting to a new position. Sometimes the angles might be different. It helps that he had all of spring to adjust the spot, but he's looked pretty competent, and that's something to watch this year. Obviously, the loss of Josh Lopez, it's going to hurt you more defensively than offensively, but if Murphy can just make the plays he's supposed to, the Beacons are going to be very happy knowing they have one of the best bats in all of New England in Dave Murphy at second base.
Yeah, it's really impressed me with a sports hernia, and I had a very good friend who had a sports hernia, and he said the hardest thing about it is you just are so scared to go left to right with it. Just like a knee injury, and that's the first thing the trainers and your physical therapist are going to tell you. Learning to go left to right again, it's a slow process. And seeing him make that nice sliding play towards second base when Huegi and him are crisscrossing, he's showing no fear. And that's the biggest thing, and that's the thing they'll teach you in rehab is you can't have fear. You have to play like you normally do.
Andre Marchessault, a check swing that ends up going foul. It's 0-2. He hit that first pitch pretty good distance down the left field line, maybe 280, 285, but well foul, as one of his teammates is actually going to track that down. And I think that's going to be the end of the day for Pat Hansel as he's walking over to pick up the foul ball. Wouldn't expect a guy who's got any more left in the tank to be chasing down foul balls in between half innings. Pitched very well, gone 4 innings, allowing just the 2 runs. Ben Gottesman looking out of his second inning scoreless. The 0-2 floats up there, and it's 1-2 now to Marchessault, who's still looking for his first hit of 2018. He's 0 for 2, hitting some fielder's choice, 6-4 to end the 5th. Flew out to right in the 4th and walked first base runner of the day for either side back in the 1st. What a breaking ball. I don't know how that missed. I think the umpire honestly might have expected that ball to be outside. Edward McGavin might have taken his eye off the ball, as that was as good as any pitch I've seen today in terms of the breaking balls, and it's now 2-2.
Yeah, that was, again, I completely agree with you. He expected it to be a little bit further out than it was, and Ben just hit its spot, and we should be listening to some music right now in between the top of the 7th and the bottom of the 7th. But, again, these are learning things Ben and some of our younger pitchers are going to have to overcome, and when you don't get the call the right way, you got to battle back. You just can't sit there and have a hissy fit. You got to settle back down, and that's also kind of reflects on McCormick now as a starting catcher. Is he's got to be able to keep his pitchers calm, in sync with him, and then just moving on from there.
Gottesman, 36 pitches thus far, 24 for strikes. 2-2, 2 outs, runner on first with 2 down. That one's another foul ball. This one with a lot more velocity back to the netting. Beacons bench right now is charging up what they've done over the past couple of years with 2 strikes on a batter, just rubbing the rim of the cap, trying to give a little bit of good luck to their pitchers. This is a very loud and active Beacons bench. Popped up on the infield. This should do it. Fowler on the right side calls it, takes a couple steps back, and makes the play. Ben Gottesman's through 2 scoreless innings. The Beacons lead 10-1 through 6.5. We'll take a break, but first a couple of highlights right now on the Beacons Broadcast Network as UMass Boston leads 10-1. Let's play the audio with it. 1-2-1 out in the top of the second. Laced, and it's caught by Fowler on first 3 years, but also with some pop. Is off the monster, and being waved home is McCormick. The throw is offline, and there goes Frashino taking off for third on the errant throw and goes along. The 1-1 is ripped past Boudreaux. Lasell should be on the board. Sharon doesn't run all that well, but Herzog's not going to get it in time. Play at third base, and the tag is not there in time. So a 2-out RBI.
I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
Going to have a couple changes on both sides here in the bottom of the 7th. First, for the visiting Lasers, the new right fielder is number 23, Chris Maringo, junior out of Farmingville, New York, Satcham East High School. Chris was not with the team a season ago, did play with Lasell 2 years ago after taking a year off, played in 18 games as a freshman back in the 2016 season. So he's sort of a new addition. The new pitcher is Lorenzo Davis. Trying to get you the numbers on Lorenzo amongst this stack of papers. Let's see if Davis has numbers from a year ago. He does. 1-1, 7 appearances, 1 start, 8 1/3 innings, 17 hits, 13 runs, 13 earned, 6 strikeouts, 5 walks. Opponents hit .415 against him, a 14.04 ERA. But again, he's in there in a situation where there's not a ton of pressure, and he's going to face some of the Beacons bench players. Is Jack Harrington, a UMass Dartmouth transfer, makes his first appearance with the Beacons. He's a guy who should compete for some starts at the catcher role. That pitch is way outside from Lorenzo Davis. Maybe a little bit of nerves from the reliever who comes in from Hansel. Hansel, in 4 innings of work, allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, picked up 2 strikeouts, and did not walk a batter. As Harrington played his freshman-sophomore year with the Corsairs, rips it, but right at Marcel, and he makes the play. So Harrington, who was in there to replace McCormick, he'll stay in behind the plate. And it looks like Kyle Penny, the Beacons' third catcher, not necessarily third-string catcher. We have no idea where the Beacons' depth chart is at this point. But Penny will likely pinch hit for Anthony Cesare in the DH spot. Right now it's going to be Wanderson Pinala, still looking for that first hit. He's 0 for 3, strikeout looking in the first, a line out to the shortstop, and a ground out to third for the Dominican Republic native. Takes it inside 1-0. And this is the point of the game where things can go one of two ways. You can really slow it down with some bench players making mistakes, or this game can maybe even get a little bit more intense, as these are the guys who were fighting for spots, fighting for ABs or potential starts going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see a lot of the Beacons roster in the next couple of innings because of that fact. Is you get the comfortable 9-run lead, and I think they're just going to see what people can do against live pitching. And I think with Wanderson being in there right now, I don't see him coming out because I think this is a great opportunity for him to get some ABs and really just build some confidence.
Grounds it over to the third baseman, Marchessault, who makes the play. Andres had a pretty steady hand defensively. And there's quickly 2 outs here in the 7th. As we'll see Kyle Penny make his 2018 debut. Another one of those Beacons catchers. Penny out of Toland, Connecticut. Guy who made 1 start as a freshman, which was pretty rare because Anthony Searles just didn't come off the field in his 4 seasons. The Beacons catcher. Who's currently doing statistics for us, making our job a little bit easier. Penny, guy who's really worked through some injuries here in preseason. Part of the reason why he's probably not behind the plate today, but he'll get an at-bat as the designated hitter here in the 7th.
Yeah, he's another young body. Again, very not really veteran tested in terms of being behind the plate, but again, if he can build some confidence at the plate, swinging his bat, making some contact. I think you might see him take over more of a DH role, like you said. I think catching-wise, as of right now, with Ryan behind the plate, and then you have Jack Harrington coming in, a veteran catcher from UMass Dartmouth. I think it's really Penny. Penny might see himself more as an offensive replacement as compared to ever putting on the mask and stepping behind the plate.
Stands at 6'1", 220, a guy who apparently has been playing some wall ball during the Beacons scrimmages past couple weeks. 2-2 now with 2 down as the Beacons look to avoid a 1-2-3 inning against Lorenzo Davis, the sophomore right-hander, 6'1", 200 out of West Haven, Connecticut. A lot of Connecticut natives on both of these rosters. 2-2 pitch. Big breaking ball that just misses off the outside corner. 3-2. Charlie Huegi, the Beacons shortstop, is in the on-deck circle. Beacons would probably use Eddie Riley to back him up, but currently Riley's in the game at third base for Kyle Boudreaux. They also have Derek Estes, a freshman, who can back up Huegi, their junior catcher. And that was just off the corner. So Penny works the walk, comes from behind to reach base. And now it will be Huegi, who's 0 for 2 with the walk. And you know Charlie's looking for that first hit of 2018, a guy who is extremely competitive with himself as much as the opponent.
Yeah, going back to Penny's at-bat, that was a great first at-bat. Again, you're cold. You've been here for a little while. He just came up. He was patient with it, took some good cuts, but ultimately drew the walk, and that's what you want for some of these players coming off the bench. You don't want them to try and crush baseballs and then ultimately just end up striking out. That does nothing for anybody, and that's one of those things that just drives Coach Igerbrough nuts, is when guys come in and he needs them to get on base, and all they do is try to swing as hard as they can through the first 3 pitches they see, and it gets them nowhere. So by him coming in, drawing a walk, I think that's a positive for Kyle right now. And then it sets up Charlie, who, again, like you said, was looking for his first hit.
Flares one out to deep center. Mahalik going back, not going to get there. Penny already around second. He's going to be waved home. Hugi's thinking 3. Huegi is rounding second, has plenty of time. It's a stand-up triple for Charlie Huegi, and UMass Boston pushes their lead to 11-1. Their largest lead of the game as Charlie Huegi, the 9-hole hitter, completes the team cycle for the day. The Beacons were looking for that triple for a while, and we're going to see more changes for this UMass Boston squad.
Yeah, just right there, just Penny just drawing that walk. Now it's a 10-run ball game, basically with 2 more innings, 2 more innings left to go. This is the type of stuff you want from your players, especially early on, is to get on base and then have your veteran players step up and really deliver in a situation they should be delivering on, not just taking walks, but making contact for extra bases, things of that nature. And again, like you said, now the team has, in their first game of the year, has hit for the cycle.
And UMass Boston will bring up one of their freshmen for the first time. It's Nick Palma. The freshman will hit in Sal Frashino's spot in the lineup. Possibly will stay in there at center field. I don't know a lot about Nick. Listed as a freshman outfielder / first baseman out of Peabody, Mass. Attended Peabody High School, 5'11", 185, hits from the left side. Folks, this is a very large Beacons roster, 38 deep. A lot of freshmen who might not see a ton of time. So Palma, a chance to prove himself. Flares one out to left. This one could get down, and it will. An RBI single flared out just in front of the left fielder Herring, and the Beacons with 2 2-out runs. And Nick Palma, save that baseball, folks, as the freshman picks up a hit in his first collegiate at bat.
Yep, a textbook. I mean, what more could you ask for from a freshman hitter? Come in, dropping a just textbook, just very much like Fowler's, just flick of the wrist, opposite field, drops it in there, scores a run. Now he's rewarded by saying congratulations. Now you can go call it for the rest of the day and sit on the bench and enjoy the fact you got your first not only collegiate hit, but you got your first collegiate RBI. And that's it.
And Danny Brown, a guy that we know can play strong center field, will step out there at first base as a pinch runner for Palma. So Palma, a short day, saw a couple pitches, flared one out to left field, and he'll get congratulated by his teammates. Eddie Riley, who was the first Beacons position player substitute, will get his first at bat. He came on as a pinch runner for Kyle Boudris back in the 6th inning, did not score in the 6th. Riley, a guy who has played a lot of different positions for UMass Boston over the past couple years, and he'll get the at-bat today.
Yeah, he's another guy who's shown a ton of potential. Again, defensively he got thrown into a really tough situation last year, tried to work through it, and obviously Coach Igerbrough had to make some changes around. But Eddie's one of those great kids, positive always, wants to come off the bench, will give you whatever he can possibly give you. I mean, he's the first one to congratulate a guy, last one to the bench. He's always getting those extra hours in, extra reps. So, and it's going to pay off for him. I think this is the year that he could really see some tremendous playing time.
Well, he rips one through the left side, another 2-out single. The Beacons with 3 straight 2-out hits three straight 2-out hits, 4 straight runners reaching with 2 outs against Lorenzo Davis. And now there's 2 on for Dave Murphy, who's going to get himself another chance. Already a home run, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, and Murphy has yet to put one over the fence. It's a little bit less likely now that it's colder and the wind is not blowing out. But Dave Murphy's one of those guys where it really doesn't matter what the elements are doing. He's capable of hitting the ball out to any part of this Monin Park.
Yes, absolutely. And to go back to one of the things you just pointed out about how many hits how the Beacons have extended this inning even with 2 outs. That was the one thing you and I could not get over, how much last year the Beacons were able to make things happen with 2 outs. They never just it was never just, oh, we have 2 outs, okay, you know what, next inning. They fought tooth and nail in every single at-bat and every single inning, even with 2 outs, and they were able to claw their way. And that was a big factor in why they were able to make the run that they did last year, because they were able to wear pitchers down when pitchers thought they were done. I mean, you think you got 2 outs, you're rolling, first 2 batters go down, and you're like, all right, this is going to be a quick inning. Next thing you know, 7 batters later, and you're just like, okay, what am I supposed to do right now? I got nothing left. I have no answers. So, and I think this is another really great sign, and I keep saying it. We're seeing so many positive things that I really think have carried over from 2017, even with the loss of some key veterans like Dan Mantoni, Anthony Searles, Luke Nagel, and even Matt Tully. I mean, the mentality and the killer instinct is very much still there.
Beacons with 5 of their 14 hits with 2 outs. Also a couple of walks as well. 2-0 here to Dave Murphy. Gets the green light. He pops it up. Will it be playable? Marchessault and Herring going over. Marchessault has space. Can't make the play. Over his glove. The Beacons are going to score 2 runs. And the only question is it an error or a double? As Herring just saw it go right over his glove, and I'm going to wait for an official scoring. They're going to give a double. So Murphy with 4 RBI in the game, a single, a double, a homer, and Herring just overran it. It ended up being blown just over his head. And we're going to see a reliever come in for Lorenzo Davis, who got the first 2 outs, just can't get through the inning, as he's going to be charged with 4 runs, 4 earned. And we're going to see several changes, as it looks like the Lasell College Lasers are going to not only change their pitching staff, I think we're also going to see a change in the outfield as well. We'll let you know after this commercial break.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
So after a little bit of confusion here in the press box, there is a change for Lasell. They're going to move the second baseman Marcel onto the mound. So the Lasers give up the designated hitter. David Marcel will come on and become the 4th pitcher of the day for the Lasers. Lorenzo Davis did not fare all that well. 2/3 of an inning. Ended up giving 4 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned. Could still be charged for at least 1 more run, as there's a runner out there at second base in the form of Dave Murphy, who reached on that wind-aided double. What probably would have been a foul ball that was caught at a lot of other parks, but Monin Park, you factor in the wind, you factor in the fact that players aren't used to being here. There's also a light up there that might have impacted Herring a little bit. Ends up being the end of the day for Lorenzo Davis, and now the rare change where a position player comes in, and the new player at second base is Wyatt Savonin, stepping in as Marcel heads to the mound here with 2 outs and a runner on second.
Yeah, Dave, another example of how Monin Park is such a home field advantage for the Beacons. Just a little bit of gust off the ocean. It's so much more different than any type of just wind you'll get at a normal ballpark. The lights right there, it's a tough angle to play. Again, identical dimensions to Fenway Park, and how many times have you watched a Sox game where balls are dropping in because there's just so many just things you don't expect in normal parks in terms of straight lines and things of that nature?
Well, Red Sox or White Sox. Can't just call it. I mean, there's a lot of Chicago White Sox fans out there going to be offended by that comment.
Okay, well, I'm going to say Red Sox.
I found one. Janessa Hernandez, our music operator today, out of the Chicago area. Member
White
of the
Sox or Cubs?
Member the women's hockey team. I have actually been to U.S. Cellular Field. I like Fenway Park more.
Thank you.
Not going to lie.
Thank you.
But just, I mean, always the focus is on not being too much of a homer in that case, not being too much of a homer towards the Boston area. 2-0 here to Chris Fowler with the runner on second and 2 outs. That one's just past the glove of Marcel, and Murphy's going to be given the go-ahead to head home. The throw to Muscalo. He'll look at Fowler, and it's another RBI hit for Chris Fowler. He's got 3 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBI to start his 2018 season. Not a bad way to start for the honorable mention All-American.
Yeah, and again, you notice it's the small things. Even with a run even with the lead the way the Beacons have it, Chris drew attention off of Dave, who could have potentially been picked off at home. He drew attention to from the Lasell defense by going halfway, knowing nobody was on first base covering, and just took their eye off of Murphy for a half a second. That allowed his teammate to score, and he reaches safely. And again, on just another standard, just put the ball in play type situation, and it results in now we're up to 5 runs in this inning.
Beacons, with all of these runs with 2 outs, they've had 6 consecutive batters reach, and this is the 9th batter of the inning. The Beacons did that in the first, now doing that here in the 7th. Dave, a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on that. Is 9 batters batting around, or is it getting to that first batter of the inning again? We can talk about that in a 15-1 game as Nick Herzog looks for that first hit of 2018.
That is very true. I don't know. Again, I agree. I think when you say batted around, it is everybody's got to hit. Everybody's got to have an at-bat once, and I think you really get back to the guy who led off the inning. I know.
So you think that at least 10 guys have to step to the plate rather than
I agree.
Okay.
I think when you say batting around, it is everybody gets 1 AB, and then once you hit the 10-digit mark, then you're just like, oh my Lord, is this ever going to end?
Well, it certainly makes it hard if you're doing a written score sheet when you have to extend into the next half inning. As it's 2-2 here to Nick Herzog. I'm personally preferential to just 9. You went all the way around your lineup, even if you didn't get back to that first batter.
Is that because you're a Phillies fan?
No, that's just my personal preference. Marchessault has a tough play, but he's got a strong arm, and he just gets Nick Herzog. So, Dave, before we go to break, I'm going to remind you the trivia question. I want your guess coming out. UMass, Boston, Lasell have met in back-to-back openers. Who was the last team that UMass Boston played in back-to-back season openers? Let's get your quick guess, and then we'll show you the answer after the break.
No, can I phone a friend and ask, is it a in-state opponent?
It is an in-state opponent.
I am going to say it is Newberry College.
Well, you're incorrect.
Okay.
I'll give you a second guess after the break. It is a MASCAC school that's not currently on the Beacon's roster, or on the Beacon schedule. We'll take a commercial break and come back with the answer to our trivia question, as it looks like we're going to have even more changes coming up in the 8th.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
So I gave Dave one last hint. It is a Massachusetts State Collegiate Athletic Conference game. Dave, what is your final guess?
My guess is I'll go MCLA, the Mass College of Liberal Arts.
Fitchburg State University. The Beacons played Fitchburg State in 95-96, well before anyone involved working today or over
Possibly
on the
born.
Beacons
possibly
bench
born.
Was involved.
Oh, the 90s. That was a great. I think that's when gas was 99 cents a gallon.
We're going to take a look right now at the Beacons' new starting pitcher. It's Joe McGuire, as McGuire had a tremendous sophomore season, and we'll get a little bit of information on McGuire for the viewers at home. McGuire out of Peabody, Massachusetts. guy who ended up being the Beacons' third reliever a season ago, and it's crazy how much of a change we saw from Joe McGuire between his freshman and sophomore season. Got the stats right here. Joe, as a freshman, was limited to 13 innings at 9.69 ERA. Joe, as a sophomore, 18 appearances, 32 innings, a 1.38 ERA. Could not ask for a bigger change. And realistically, a lot of it just came down to confidence. His stuff was there as a freshman. We saw it. Just wasn't necessarily getting the productions. There's a hard hit ball, a diving effort from Eddie Riley over there at third, and that's a web gem from the Quincy native who didn't start the game there.
Yeah, that was a great play by Eddie. Again, full extension, and that's a great thing and especially a great thing for a pitcher coming on, first appearance of the year, to have your defense make a play like that right out of the gate. I mean, right now this is Joe's game for the rest of it, and I think, like you said, confidence of the last 2 years, tremendous. And I think Dan Gamble has high hopes for Joe this year as being one of those guys who can go a couple innings, help take some of the pressure off of Kaufman, who came in and was just absolutely filthy out of the pen last year, and especially in the later part of the season. So now this is something that Joe can come in, help take some of that pressure off, and really help solidify a Beacons lead going into the later innings.
Well, that was Dom Muscalo retired on that absolute laser over to third base. This is Robert Catoni. He's the only guy the Beacons haven't retired. A pair of walks and a triple thrown out at home trying to score on a wild pitch. The Beacons lead 15-1 thanks to a 5-run bottom of the seventh. All 5 runs coming with 2 outs as the Beacons sent 9 batters to the plate. A lot of pinch hitters and pinch runners. Catoni flares one out to left. Coming in is Herzog. Going back is Huegi, and Herzog makes the diving effort. That's a little bit of good communication between a pair of players who have now been playing together for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, again, just I like the fact that Huegi was out there as a backup, but Zog had that locked in the entire time. Came in, made a nice little play, 2 quick outs. Joe is just sitting there, and he couldn't be. I bet you he couldn't be any happier right now with the way this early outing's going. He's limited pitches and getting 2 quick outs, and what more could you ask for?
Final line on Ben Gottesman, who came on for Joey Rogers in the 6th. 2 innings, 1 hit, 0 runs, 0 earned, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout for the sophomores. The Beacons threw 2 sophomores to start the day. Now their junior, one of their workhorses, as he's quickly ahead 0-2. And Rogers is pumping the heat compared to the Beacons' first 2 pitchers. Certainly an increase. McGuire, as it's been a little bit of a long day. Getting back into the baseball grind after we had our last winter playoff broadcast just a couple of days ago. 1-2 here from McGuire. Just misses on the outside corner with the fastball. This is Jesse Tejero, the starting shortstop. 0 for 3, a strikeout, a ground out to third to end the 4th, and a fly out to right, looking to avoid an 0 for 4 day. He rips that ball out to left center. This one is very deep, heading back to the wall. Danny Brown with the catch just shy of the left center field wall, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Joe McGuire as the Beacons very happy with this first one. Right now it's interesting. Dan Gamble, the Beacons pitching coach, having a conversation there with Jack Harrington. Not only a pitching change, but a total battery change, and that's interesting to see how the Beacons pitchers relate and how the catcher does. There's tons of things to watch early on in the year. So we will take one of our final 2 likely breaks and be back with the bottom of the 8th as the Beacons will face off against the 5th pitcher of the day for the Lasell College Lagers.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
Bottom of the 8th inning, a look at the 5th pitcher of the day as David Marcel finally got the last out of that bottom of the 7th inning, only after giving up an RBI single to Chris Fowler and then retiring Nick Herzog. The new pitcher for the Lasell College Lasers, well, lost my program. Now I'll steal it back. It's number 12 for Lasell. Chris O'Connor, sophomore pitcher out of Duxbury, Massachusetts, 6'1", 180. Try to get you the numbers on O'Connor in a moment. Dave, as O'Connor, another one of those guys who did not have a great freshman year. 1 inning, allowed 5 hits, 7 runs, 5 earned, 3 walks, no strikeouts. Opponents hit .625 against him. That's not really fair. It's 1 inning of work. An ERA of 45. So what he's looking to do right now, if you're Chris O'Connor, is just
pitch strikes.
The fact that he's pitching today shows that coach has more confidence in him today than he would have a year ago. As the Lasers probably have pitched more guys than they would have liked today. But still, you go in knowing you're not going to get 9 innings out of Daniel Petter. So this is a chance for O'Connor to just put up a solid outing. So he's going to face off against Ryan McCormick, possibly Wanderson Penales, and Kyle Penny.
That's Jack Harrington.
Jack Harrington, excuse me. As Harrington came on in the last half inning. He led off, grounded out to second base in his first at bat as a Beacon. Part of a 5-run inning in which the Beacon scored all 5 runs with 2 outs.
Yeah, if I'm O'Connor right now, coach put me in, and, you know, the game is well in hand for the Beacons, but if I'm him, just come in and throw strikes. I mean, you're not proving anything other than that you can give your team innings when they need you to. And again, like you said, the one appearance, those numbers aren't reflective on that. That could be a bad day, and everybody has one. And so for him to come in and just, in this situation, just do what you've been doing your entire life. Just throw strikes, make the Beacons batters think, and just get out of the inning.
1-1 to Harrington, the Beacons' junior catcher in his first year with UMass Boston, now 2-1. Did not play a season ago after spending his first 2 years with UMass Dartmouth. At UMass Dartmouth, he didn't hit all that well. 224 as a sophomore, 381 on base percentage, so obviously a good eye. 13 runs scored, 9 RBI in 28 games as a sophomore, as he swings and misses there. But again, Dave, for UMass Boston, the ability to handle a pitching staff, to make the right decisions, to captain that infield is as important as being able to hit for a high average. Last year, Anthony Searles will be the first to admit it. He didn't produce as much as he wanted offensively, hit around 200, but he had some big hits, and his defense was more than enough to keep him in the lineup on a day-in, day-out basis, maybe even more so than he would have liked, as Searles was the Beacons' starting catcher in all but 1 game. UMass Boston played close to 50 games in 2017, 48, 49. Searles played 48 of 40. I'm not getting this hand signal.
Just stop.
49 of 50. Anthony a little bit frustrated with me. It was easier when he couldn't hear what we were saying about him behind the plate. 2-2 here to Jack Harrington. Lefty looking for his first hit for UMass Boston as the 2-2 pitch fouled back to the stop.
Yeah, I think with Jack, he just needs to just take his time. I mean, again, he really saw limited, I believe, no time last year, correct, for UMass Dartmouth?
Yeah, there was he didn't actually make it into the season with the Corsairs. There was some off-the-field stuff with some other guys, and he was happy to transfer, knew a lot of Beacons on this roster, and immediately made the decision before the season even started. There's a nice catch out in left from what I believe is still Herring out there for the Lasers.
Yeah, I think with Jack, he just needs to just relax. Like, game 1 of the year, it didn't really get much time last year. So he's got to get back into the swing of things. There's going to be some serious game day rust he's going to have to work off. And again, but another big body. I mean, the Beacons have 3 catchers who are well over 6 foot, 200-plus guys. I mean, just intimidating guys behind the plate. And if their leadership and command is there from the defensive standpoint, the offensive stuff will happen. If not, it doesn't. But and that's why you have other guys in the lineup like a Murphy and a Fowler to pick up some of that weight.
Wanderson Penales' 5th trip to the dish. He's 0 for 4, a strikeout looking, a line out to short, and a pair of groundouts to third. Looking for that first hit UMass Boston, played his first 2 years at Western Oklahoma State College. Returning to Boston where he played high school ball. The 0-1 pitch to Wanderson is outside. And this is a guy who it's probably more of an adjustment for outfielders than infielders if you're playing in another school and you come to UMass Boston because of how big the outfield is, how much you have to deal with the wind and the lights. And Pinellas, while he doesn't have a hit today, has looked very comfortable out there in right, fighting off some of the wind and covered a lot of ground out there in right field.
Yeah, one of the things I heard from multiple sources during the offseason and in the spring was how much ground this guy can cover. You figure you have Sal Frascino in center field, who one of the fastest outfielders, can cover so much ground, and to have a right fielder now that can come in and do to match that type of speed and quickness, you're going to be a lot of runners are going to be thinking twice before trying to get an extra base
and
here
a very good arm. Yeah, very good arm. That's the reason he's out in right versus Nick Herzog, who can cover a lot of ground in his own right. 1-2 pitch coming up to Pinellas, and he flares that one out to right center. Could this be the first hit for Pinellas? And it's going to be an extra base hit out into the triangle. Pinellas can absolutely fly. He's heading into third base, and he's going to go home. A chance for a second inside the park home run of the day, and Pinellas slides in safely. Wanderson Pinellas was looking for that first hit. Why not an inside the park home run for the junior transfer, and the Beacons bench is loving it.
Wow, first hit inside the park, home run, 2 in the day. You can't really, there's no other analogies, no other words to describe how the Beacons bats are firing, and you're seeing it top to bottom, starters, now guys off the bench, just making solid contact, patient at bats, and if this mentality and this way of thinking continues for the next 2 months, you and I are going to be very busy at the end of May. That is for sure.
Well, UMass Boston has now scored in 6 of their 8 innings. 16 runs, 17 hits, maybe the most important number there if you're Brendan Eigerbolt, 0 errors. The Beacons have played some very clean baseball today in their 2018 opener. When you come in with that number 3 ranking, you can go one of 2 ways. You can show that you deserve it, or preseason rankings especially, another team's going to come out fired up trying to beat you. Maybe you can be upset in one of your first couple of games. At least today, the Beacons have shown that they're worthy of this high praise to start the 2018 season.
Yeah, you and I have seen it a lot, and we always say those preseason rankings, as great as it is, it's more for a recruiting number, because in no way, shape, or form are those teams battle tests. And a lot of those times when those teams make those deep runs, it's sometimes, I hate to say it's kind of a one-and-done thing, because you have a veteran core of leaders that do a lot of the work that carry their team, and then once those veterans graduate, the teams kind of fall off. And that hasn't been the case at all today. I think the mentality and, again, the killer instinct that the Beacons displayed last year through the LEC tournament, through the regional, and the College World Series is very reflective here today. And I think, again, bright start to the 2018 season.
Well, if you missed it last week on beaconsathletics.com, Steve Witkowski, a member of the baseball team, and Gigi Braga took a look at a couple of the spring teams, a preview of looking back at last year. UMass Boston spring teams all had banner years. 3 teams won conference championships. A lot of teams sent teams or individuals to nationals. They talked to Brian Kaufman of the baseball team, also talked to members of the softball team and men's tennis team, and the focus was using last year as motivation rather than really just being happy with last year. And thus far, we've seen that from a Beacons team that scored 5 runs in the first inning, made it 9-0 through 3, and now it looks like they might be taking the foot off the pedal a little bit. They've scored 6 runs here while just giving up 4 outs in the last inning and a third, and their lead is up to 15 in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, you can see it across UMass Boston athletics is when one team is successful, it's contagious. And you and I have been here now 6 years, and I saw what this program was capable of back in 2010 when I worked at the regional at Eastern Connecticut. And in the 6 years you and I have been here, we have seen this trend of winning and programs just smashing records, and these type of athletes coming in who are just fundamentally sound both in their respective sports but also in the classroom. And it's reflective of how long some of these teams are going for. You think about last year's baseball season, that was a 3.5-month campaign start to finish, and it ended up bringing us to Appleton, Wisconsin, which is the mecca, in my opinion, of college sports. It's one of those things like Omaha. It's just one of those staples in in college athletics. And I know it was a treat for me, and I know it was a treat for our seniors especially, but I know a lot of the guys who were on last year's team weren't happy with the results. They're not happy unless they're winning the big guy. And they want to win the big guy this year, and I don't think they're really going to I don't think the conference championship is anywhere, shape, or form good enough for them, and I don't think the regional is good enough for them. And I think that mentality is carrying over into other teams, and it's only a bright future for UMass Boston.
Well, I think it's a healthy competition here on campus where you see what one team has accomplished, and you want that and a little bit more for your team. And certainly when you have a commuter campus like UMass Boston where there's not a ton of student support, the athletes have to support each other. Here on the campus of UMass Boston, 16,000 students, but no students actually on campus until next year. The on-campus dorms going up to our right. Can't see them because of the huge parking garage that's going up at the same side. Lots of construction going on. Sometimes it makes it difficult for student athletes and staff, but in the end it's going to end up being a very, very nice campus here in Dorchester. As the 2-2 pitch just misses Huegi, who had a difficult start to his day. 0-for-2 with a walk through the first 5 innings, and then hit a triple, an RBI triple back in the 7th inning to start that 5-run rally. So UMass Boston looks to extend their lead here with 2 outs, a full count on Huegi in the bottom of the 8th, and he'll flare that one back. The Beacons have done a nice job of extending counts. UMass Boston has struck out 5 times, but they've certainly made these Lasell College pitchers work. We haven't seen any 3-pitch strikeouts, I believe. It's been 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8 pitches to get some of these outs against UMass Boston.
Yeah, and that's reflective, I think, on what Coach Igerborough and even now Coach Maquette have brought to this year's team. It's focusing on staying back on the ball, driving it to a spot. Nothing like these check swing type things that's just a blooper into the infield. It's more of a, let's drive this ball with a purpose, let's drive this ball with efficiency, and let's make pitchers just regret facing each and every single one of us. And I think that's really reflective of today. And here you are again, 15-run lead. Hugi's working an 8-pitch at bat right now. I mean, that's reflective of a complete and total game mentally and physically as a player and as a team. So
flared out to center, coming in is Mahalik, not going to make the play. A good cover by the right fielder. That's Doris, and that'll keep Huegi at first base. But he's got back-to-back hits. A 2-hit day, has reached base 3 times. And that will bring up Danny Brown for the first time, as I think we're going to see a pinch runner. UMass Boston not content, and it's going to be Derek Estes, the backup freshman. Another guy who, quite honestly, I don't know a ton about. I haven't had a chance to go out to practice and see these Beacons team, but apparently a very solid defender who's still working to catch up with the bat. Very nice individual. From the limited times that I've interacted. As Estes is out there at first base. Freshman out of Hyannis, Massachusetts. A CCRI transfer, Community College of Rhode Island. See a lot of CCRI transfers end up at Rhode Island College, another team in the Little East Conference, but Beacons are happy to have Estes. This is the first time we've seen Danny Brown at the dish. He made a nice running catch to end the top of the 8th, and he takes that pitch on the outside corner. Brown's another guy who had to play a decent amount in his first year. Didn't see a ton of time, but he played at second, he played at center, played a little bit at third base. And he is just an all-around athlete. He was even pitching this year before some injuries. As he flares that one out to left, this one's got a chance, and it's over the head of Herring out there in left field. Estes is going to hold up at third base, but UMass Boston now with 3 hits in the 8th inning to bring their total to 19 on the game. And the Beacons have runners at second and third for what should be Eddie Riley.
Yeah, great at bat, and again, touching on Danny, another guy who had to get thrown right into the fire as a freshman, comes in the sophomore year, another guy who's just hearing positive things about from everybody top to bottom, and could really have a solid year of filling in some spots when needed and getting some crucial pinch hits and some defensive changes and to fill in the outfield, especially with how quick and athletic our outfield is, that's a compliment to what Danny can bring to the lineup.
Ball gets away from Catone, but Estes will stay there. 1-0 to Eddie Riley. It's crazy how well the Beacons have hit in the last 3 innings. Riley came on as a pinch runner in the bottom of the 6th inning. He was the first batter of that inning. As Kyle Boudreaux worked the leadoff walk. Then he had a single through the left side back in the 7th inning and scored. And now he's up for the second time in 2 innings, and he's already been on base twice, and this is his 3rd at bat. The Beacons have really turned it on after a couple of slow innings in the middle. UMass Boston scored 5 in the 1st, 3 in the 2nd, 1 in the 3rd, a single run in the 5th, and then 5 in the 7th, 1 more here in the 8th, and they have 2 runners on with 2 outs as the Beacons look to continue piling up gaudy numbers on opening day.
Yeah, they're just taking advantage of the situations that presented to them. Again, great weather. It's not cold, but it's cold enough, but they're able to still make contact. Ball's carrying great in Monin, as usual.
Riley crushes it out towards the triangle. That's going to be extra bases. Eddie Riley has a chance for a triple. The Beacons are going to hit for the double cycle. They've already had 5 doubles, 2 triples, 2 inside the park home runs, and a smattering of singles. UMass Boston leads 18-1 here in the bottom of the 8th as they continue working against Savonin. Wyatt Savonin, freshman who's listed as a infielder pitching, and it's not been a great debut for him.
Yeah, but again, when a team is this hot and this team is seeing, and they're obviously seeing beach balls right now when these guys come up to swing, there's nothing you can do as a relief pitcher. You just got to try and stop the bleeding as best you can. But in some respects, the Beacons right now are like sharks in the water. They smell blood, and they're going to keep feasting and feasting and feasting until somebody gets that 3rd out. And again, going back to our conversation stuff, all this damage has been done with 2 outs, and it just shows that these guys this year, if this mindset continues, are just going to never stop until that final out is recorded.
And I messed up. I said Savonin. Savonin came in the last half inning at second base. It's Chris O'Connor, who had that difficult freshman season. He's now given up 3 runs here in the 8th. So another difficult inning for him. Hopefully he settles down as he's facing off against an absolute rifle there off the bat of, I'm not even sure who that is for UMass Boston. It's Brzezinski, another one of those freshmen, as the changes have just been whipping. And there's the first collegiate hit for Kyle Brzezinski in there for Dave Murphy. And UMass Boston has made this a 19-1 game, and that might do it for O'Connor. These changes have been coming so much, I can't even read who is where at this point for these 2 sides. But congratulations to Kyle Brzezinski, who's the 2nd Beacon today to come on as a pinch hitter and have a hit their first collegiate hit, get an RBI in that first collegiate hit. Kyle Brzezinski and Chris Palma, congratulations to those 2 guys. Not my most professional moment, but at this point, I haven't known where my sheets were all day, and I haven't found my roster in about 3 innings at this point.
Yeah, we got to come up with a better system for you. I need to get Ice King Kenny King should come up here and put something together for you, because you are just all over the place, and you're rocking the Eagles hoodie too. So
all the counter space is devoted to our crack broadcasting crew, doing a great job,
as it should be.
We've got another substitution for UMass Boston. I've got time this time. It's Nick Cotraro, a guy who didn't see a ton of at-bats as a freshman, sophomore out of Beverly, Mass., who saw his season come to an end after an unfortunate friendly fire incident with a teammate at Amherst. But he's out there and a chance to get some at-bats, as right now he should be in the Chris Fowler spot. So I don't expect that Cotraro will stay on, but at least he has a chance to get that pinch hit at-bat here with Kyle Brzezinski out there at second base, and that one gets away from Catone, who's been behind the plate for this entire night, and the wild pitch will allow Brzezinski to move up to third base.
Yeah, Cotraro, a guy who, like you said, friendly fire, just a freak occurrence at Amherst College, kind of sidelined his freshman year. But you know what? He was somebody who was always with the team. He never let that injury kind of hold him back. He was there at every step of the way, supporting his team. and he knew that he was going to have to work a little bit harder this year to get back into the lineup.
1 for 7 a year ago, make it 1 for 1 here in 2018. The Beacons lead 20-1. Cotraro's not going to settle for 2. He's on his way to 3. Cotraro is speeding his way in, slides into third base. These last 2 innings have been a hitting display. 5 in the 7th, 5 more in the 8th. The Beacons have 20 runs on 22 hits. And Dave, this is what the Beacons team kept telling us they were doing in scrimmages. UMass Boston has put up 20 hits and 22 runs, and we've got yet another substitution. It's Tyler Aruda, a guy that we heard could be a starting pitcher for this team. Aruda is listed as a DH, the freshman of New Bedford, Mass, the guy the Beacons are really high on. And he's trying to recreate that same kind of success, just nearly threw his helmet off with that swing. But you can't help it with the way everyone else is hitting it. This point,
contagious.
UMass Boston just wants this game to never end.
Yeah, again, I mean, there's just the bats are just rolling right now, and these guys are seeing the ball so well, and it's really nice to see. Because again, a lot of the workers that work for us are baseball players, and they come in, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've been doing this, we've been doing that in spring ball and fall ball," and you and I kind of say, "Okay, all right, we've heard this before, and then to see it actually right here in front of us in the season opener, after not hitting really anything except being in a gym or in over in a training facility, to do this is impressive. This is very impressive.
20 runs on 22 hits. The Beacons have scored in 6 of 8 innings. They've put up 5 runs in 3 different frames. This game was 9-0 after 3 innings. It's 20-1 here in the 8th. As Tyler Aruda tries to extend it, he's got a runner on third with 2 outs. 2-2 pitch bounces up there. Aruda shows good patience, and the count runs full with Nick Cotraro over there on third. The Beacons have 5 doubles. I think it's still 5. 3 triples, 2 inside the park home runs, and then whatever else that equals, you can add up to singles. This Beacons team has been absolutely crushing the ball all afternoon as Aruda hits it hard, but a 2-bouncer over to the second baseman, which should be Savonin. And that'll do it for the 8th. Folks, this one's probably out of hand, but come back for the top of the 9th as UMass Boston looks to close it out with what should be last year's closer, Bobby Tremendozzi, coming on for his first inning of 2018.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
While we get through the defensive changes up top, let's take a look at the highlights from the last inning, starting with Wanderson Penales' inside the park home run. Penales, a guy who had yet to get a hit in his Beacons debut, and he just never stopped running. Just crushed the ball out towards the triangle. You can see Mahalik trying to track it down. And then at some point, we're going to see Wanderson Penales start to run. You see him running through your screen there. And Penales just never stopped running all the way around, a little bit faster than Dave Murphy made it around the base pass the first time around. This was the hit from Eddie Riley, the RBI triple into the triangle. The Beacons are making Mahalik spend a lot of time out there in the Fenway Triangle, or the Monin Triangle, if you're playing here at Monin Park. And then the final highlight is yet another triple. Nick Cotraro crushing it towards the right field spot. And again, see Lasell struggling with a little bit of the depth perception. They might not have gotten outside as much as UMass Boston, but I mean, the Beacons have been crushing the ball to all parts of this ballpark. We've seen them hit the left field fence. We've seen them hit the dead center field fence, the right center field triangle, and a couple of balls that have bounced into the Lasell bullpen. This truly has been an impressive hitting display. Before we get to the top of the 9th, though, remember, fans, you can follow us on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at UMass Beacons, and, of course, on beaconsathletics.com. Today, after the game, we'll have highlights on beaconsathletics.com. We'll have an Instagram post. We'll tweet about this contest, and you can check out the story on Facebook as well. So the Beacons have had a very successful 2018 opener.
Yeah, again, I mean, the highlights are, it's going to be a long highlight. Gigi Braga has her work cut out for her. She's got I don't even know how you break down a 20-run baseball game into highlights that keeps it under a minute and a half.
I don't think we're going to keep it under a minute and a half.
I don't think
we're going to try to keep it under 5.
I think that I agree with that, and I know, and again, we're very excited about what the Beacons are doing in Game 1, but again, it's the games 30 and above that are the ones that are going to matter, and if the Beacons can maintain a hint of this in late April, the postseason looks like it's going to be a very long postseason for the Beacons, which is a great thing, and I think Coach Igerbro, it's a credit to him, is his recruiting since getting Monon Park has skyrocketed. In the many years I've known him, and I respect him tremendously, he had to work insanely hard to try and get guys to come to UMass Boston because it's hard to sell a baseball player on coming to a school with no field. And the fact that Monon Park is here and it's just on the website, it's a walk across campus. Recruiting for him, it's now he's able to really be selective. He's really able to find the kind of guys that he wants to fit in key spots in his program that he really thinks are going to add something to it, and it's been reflective over the last 2 years. And I hate to say it really kind of started with that senior class last year with Dan, Luke, and Anthony, who really they made a lot of things work going over to Campanelli, and to be rewarded with Monon Park, it really kind of set the tone because they really took Monon Park and ran with it, and winning breeds great recruits, and they want to come to a winning program, and to go back even further than that, those guys that really had to grind it out all those years, not having a home field, it's reflective on the future of Beacons baseball right now.
New pitcher is Bobby Tramendozzi, the junior out of Peabody, Mass. Led the Beacons this season ago with 6 saves, has 7 on his career. So he strikes out Wyatt Savonin. Not a save situation at this point.
Yeah.
Leading 20-1, but still some late inning work for Tramendozzi, who was one of those 2 workhorses. Both he and Brian Kaufman both appeared in 24 games a season ago, amongst the top 10 pitchers in all of Division III in terms of total appearances. Wore down a little bit as the season went along, so the Beacons looking to get a good start from him. And I think one of the things we're going to see, there's a big swing and a miss from Chris Marengo, who came out as a defensive replacement. So maybe a few more bullpen pitchers this year see action to try to keep those guys from getting worn down. We've seen it each of the past 2 years. The Beacons do have a problem in the postseason. It comes with some of those trusty arms throwing all those innings. We saw it 2 years ago with the Beacons closer, and then last year it was Tramendozzi. Just as he strikes out a second consecutive batter, clearly looks pretty good. But if the Beacons have a flaw when it comes to NCAA play, it is that their bullpen maybe doesn't have as much juice left in the tank.
Yeah, and again, I think that was the focus on the 38-man roster this year, is bringing in a lot of arms, guys that can go the distance in those non-conference, mid-April, end of March games that can help take some of the load off on the starting arms and on the key relievers and closers. And I think that's and one thing that you and I saw when we got to the regional, I mean, Coffin and Tramendozzi were tired. I mean, they were exhausted, and I've always said it, to win a national championship in college baseball at all levels, you got to have the pitching staff, and your roster gets cut in half basically when you go to the regional and to the College World Series, and you're required to just lean heavily on your pitching staff, especially if your bats are not producing, which when we got to the World Series, when the Beacons got to the World Series, they felt quiet, and so we really needed to rely on Mantoni. You think about that win over Wheaton. Mantoni had to do a lot of the carrying from a pitching standpoint, and then the bats got those key runs that we needed. So I think if we can save the Tramendozzians and the Coughs of the world, even Joey Maggs, I think that's only going to benefit the Beacons come postseason play.
This is Luke Scholin, the sophomore outfielder out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Don't see a lot of players in New England out of New Mexico. But he gets his first at-bat of 2018, 2-2 with 2 down, trying to extend this game for Lasell. They scored their only run back in the 5th inning with a 2-out single. They've been limited to 6 hits and Well, they also have 2 errors as they trail by 19 here in the top of the 9th. The 2-2 just off the corner as Tramandozzi looks not only for a 1-2-3 inning, but potentially for a 1-2-3 strikeout inning. And Dave, I don't know if UMass Boston has had more than one 1-2-3 inning today, and that came back in the 8th for Joe McGuire, as that will be a strikeout, and there it goes. Beacons use 2 of their top arms from a year ago, and they get back-to-back 1-2-3 innings. The Beacons win 20-1. They ran out to a 9-0 lead, and really were never threatened by the Lasers on opening day. The number 3 team in the country enjoying what was a very successful season. We're going to take a very quick we're not even going to take a break. We're going to get the final graphics up ready for you. And then we're going to close it out here on the Beacons Broadcast Network as UMass Boston wins 20-1 on what started out as a very nice Wednesday, February afternoon. Got a little bit chilly in the end, but certainly the Beacons are all smiles after they defeat the Lasell College Lasers by a 20-1 score. So we will bring you a look at the final score right there. 20-1. Beacons out-hit the Lasers 22-6. Do not commit an error. I'd like to give a shout-out to our production crew right now who did a great job. Might be some question marks up there. I can fill them in for you. There's a lot of question marks up there. My name's Seth Dorensky. Our directors, Alyssa Fugel and Rachel Maslak. Cassie Murphy on Instant Replay. I was joined on the call by David Wahlberg. Our camera operators, well, Alex Gibbs didn't make it, but we had Marcelo Cunha, Julia Nolan, Sarah King, and Mike Mulligan. Obviously, there was a lot up in the air for this 2018 opener, but everyone did a great job. We hope you enjoyed it and didn't mind the little bit of a slow start. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Remember, the Beacons back in action hopefully on Saturday. The weather doesn't look great, but we'll let you know on Friday night or Saturday morning. And then they'll host Brandeis and MIT Monday, Tuesday of next week. That's all from Monin Park. UMass Boston wins their opener 20-1.